Sorry, boy. But his captain's got to teach his men what happens to those what crossing.
Captain's got to teach stuff.
Good morning from the Batcave. It is Monday, January 8th, 2024. And I'm going to keep going on this this Bible series, this Genesis series I've been doing. I'm actually starting to see daylight in my rightly dividing book. I'm getting into the 1970s and 80s now and working towards the 21st century and, kind of the age that most y'all probably grew up in or were traumatized by, one or the other. So I'm taking a break to keep going in this series, but I think we stopped last time with Abraham sacrificing Isaac and then obviously receiving Isaac back. Paul's going to say in Hebrews how he received Isaac back from the dead. And these are a couple of insights that he's getting by divine revelation, but it's also kind of logical. And what he's going to say is that Abraham reasoned that God could raise Isaac from the dead, and that's how he was able to proceed to really attempt to sacrifice Isaac, while still believing the promise that he would inherit his seed through Isaac. So basically God intervening and putting the ram in the thicket and sending the angel to tell him not to hurt the boy was a type of receiving Isaac back from the dead. And so Isaac becomes this type of Christ. He's the type of the promise. And so that's why Paul is going to refer to him as the child of the promise and Ishmael as the child of bondage. So they're going to become types of the old and new covenant after that. So basically that's going to close that is going to close the chapters where Abraham is central. He's still in the story. Remember, Abraham is, that's kind of the peak of Abraham's walk with God, is when he, does this thing. And it's this final act that James accounts as his full justification. So it's like he's accredited with righteousness for believing the promise in Genesis 15. But James is saying that he is justified by works alone, and I'll probably do a whole video series about how justification by faith alone is not legit, just because you're gonna see Abraham accounted as righteousness, or accounted as righteous for believing the promise, which is a kind of justification. And then he's also going to justify telling Abraham about Sodom and Gomorrah because of what Abraham's going to do in the future, in terms of raising his descendants to basically do the right thing, and so that the Messiah comes through them ultimately. And then in chapter 22, basically he offers up Isaac, and then that's when God says to him, because you have done this thing and not withheld your son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven and the sand that's up upon the sea. So that's his spiritual descendants. That is his earthly bodily descendants. And then he said, your seed will possess the gates of their enemies. So that's obviously going to have a spiritual and literal connotation. The spiritual is, Sheol will not prevent them. And then literal is going to be, their physical prominence, which is going to happen in the days of David, but ultimately in the millennium, because the Jews are going to be the dominant nation of the world. The actual ethnic Jews are going to be. And Christ is going to be their king, and the Jews are going to be like America is or has been up until now, when it is, destroying itself and eating itself from the inside out. So we're going to go into Genesis 23, and that's where he starts to now get kind of close off some things. He's going to talk about the death of Sarah here, and I'm just going to kind of read through this. So it says, Sarah was 127 years old, and these were the life of Sarah, and Sarah died in Kiriath Jearabah. So remember, she was 90 when she had Isaac. Abraham was 100. Isaac would be 37 years old now. And then it says, the same is in Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn to Sarah and weep for her. And Abraham stood up before he is dead and spake to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession for a burying place, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And this let's see, Kirath Arba. I think this is in the West Bank now. So there's going to be a lot of very prominent places in Israel that are now part of the West Bank, and I think Hebron is one of them. So Hebron would be, yep, it's in the West Bank. You see right here. Hebron is going to be where David's ultimately going to be king from before they take Jerusalem. This is kind of like right in the center of Judah. So obviously in the beginning of his reign, remember, you've got kind of a civil war between the people who still think Saul's descendant should be king and then David. And so he's going to have his kingdom right in the center of the Judeans, because that's basically, kind of the safest place to have his capital, if you will. And then he's going to take Jerusalem, which is going to be up here. And that's when the unified kingdom starts. Or he's going to unify the kingdom and then take Jerusalem. But that's going to put Judea in the center of, or put Jerusalem kind of in the center of Benjamin, which is Saul's descendants, Ephraim, which is Joseph's descendants, and obviously Joshua, and then the Judahites. And so he's going to kind of be in the center of the highlands, around the other most prominent tribes, and that's where he's going to rule from there. So that's going to be this Hebron where he starts out. That's going to be where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are all buried. Remember, Leah was the wife that spent most of her life with Jacob, because Rachel dies kind of young. She's his favorite wife in the beginning, but she doesn't end up buried with him. Leah does. So that's pretty interesting. Anyways, it says, Abraham stood up before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth. So the sons of Heth is going to be the Hittites. And he says, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession for a burying place for you, that I may go bury my dead on my site. So this is important. Kiriath Arba, which is all the way, it's south of Jerusalem, that the Hittites were all the way down there. So the Hittite kingdom is ultimately going to extend all the way up into Turkey, and it's going to comprise most of what was like Western Turkey. And so that's their empire. And in the days of Joseph, they're going to actually war with Egypt as equals. And I think they win some battles, and I think they kind of push Egypt back out of Canaan. And then the Canaanites are going to become strong then, because it was the Egyptians and the Philistines kind of pushing way in Canaan until that time, and the Hittites kind of weakened them a bit. So anyways, it says, I am a sojourner with you. Give me a possession for a burying place, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my lord. Thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres, bury your dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, that thou may bury my dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, If it be in your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me from Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is in the end of the field, for as much money as it is worth, and he shall give it to me as a possession for a burying place. So Abraham wants to buy it. He doesn't want there to be some group of people later on who show up and they're like, oh, that's ours, that wasn't our ancestral lands, and takes it back. Because he intends not just to bury Sarah and himself there, but his descendants. Remember, this is kind of the center of the Jews' kingdom after that he's going to take over. So then he says, Now Ephron dwelt with the children of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth. So this is Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite. And he says, And even of all that went into the gate of the city, saying, Nay, my lord, hear me, and the field I give thee, and the cave that is therein, I give it to thee in the presence of the sons of the people. I give it to thee to bury their dead. And Abraham followed down himself before the people of the land. He spoke to Ephron in the audience of the people, saying, But if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, I will give thee money for the field. Take the money, and I'll bury the dead there. So he wants to make sure there's an exchange, that he gives him money so that nobody can try to make a claim on it later. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, hearken to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver, but what is that between you and me? Bury the dead. So what he's kind of doing is going overboard to be polite, but Abraham's kind of pushing back and saying, well, but let me pay you though. Remember, Abraham doesn't really trust these people. He understands that God's eventually going to give him their land, and so there's going to be some pushback in time, okay? But it's not going to come for 400 years. So it says, Abraham hearkened unto Ephraim, and Abraham weighed Ephraim the silver, and that he had named in the audience in the price of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with a merchant. In the field of Ephron, which is at Machpelah, which is before Mamre, the field, the cave which was therein, and all the trees that were therein, that were all the borders round about, were made sure. Unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went to the gate of the city. This is one of the things that frustrates me about the King James. That's not a. It makes it sound like that's another sentence. The borders were made sure unto Abraham for a possession. Like they capitalize the beginning of the verse like it's a new sentence, and it's not. It's just the end of the sentence. It's just led to a lot of problems in the 18 and 1900s with people taking half a sentence and trying to make a proverbial statement or a rule out of it. In the cave, in the field and cave that is therein, Abraham made a possession for a burying place for the sons of Heth. So Sarah has died. It says Abraham was old and stricken in age. The Lord blessed Abraham in all things. Now we're going to have this story in Genesis 24, and this is going to be another major type of the Godhead. Remember, the first one that you have in terms of Abraham's life is going to be when the three men visit him, and he calls the three men the Lord, and they answer him when he questions the Lord. And then the Lord says he's going to go down, but he sends the two others, and he doesn't go down, at least in person physically. It's a type of, the Father staying back in eternity and the Son and the Spirit coming down and interacting in the creation. And now this is going to be really a type of the Father, Spirit, and Son in terms of the gospel mission. And so what you have here is Abraham is the father, and his eldest servant. So remember, he says it's Eleazar, but Eleazar is never named here. He's just called his eldest servant, okay? Well, the member of the Trinity who is the most servant-like is going to be the Holy Spirit, okay? And that's why the Holy Spirit is the one that you can't blaspheme, because the Holy Spirit, in terms of activity, in terms of function, is the one who acts most subordinate under the direction of the other two in terms of will. So the Holy Spirit never speaks of itself. It's going to take from Jesus and give to you, and then the Holy Spirit is going to lead Jesus in what the Father would do. But the Holy Spirit is never speaking of itself, okay? The Holy Spirit is never saying I will, never saying I anything, okay? So that's why the servant's going to be the Holy Spirit. Abraham's going to be the father in this type. And then it says, notice he says the eldest servant of his house that ruled over all he had. Okay, so kind of the Holy Spirit is really ruling over creation because the Holy Spirit is physically holding it together. Okay, and then it says, and I pray thee thy hand under thy thigh, that I will make thee swear by the Lord, the God of heaven, the God of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell, but thou shalt go to my country, to my kindred, to take a wife unto my son Isaac. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a foreshadowing of the bride of Christ, because again, the bride of Christ is not going to come from the world, and yet it is. Okay, so the bride of Christ is going to come from a people that are adopted into and born again into the divine family, if you will. Okay, and so it's important that the church is born again before they're married to Christ, because Christ needs to fulfill this type of not being of the Canaanites, in other words, not being of the world, but being of his kindred. Okay, they needs to be of his kind. Okay, and so we become part of the God kind. Now I know people are going to be up in arms about the little gods theory of the Pentecostal televangelists. Okay. The reality is they're not entirely wrong, okay? They are wrong in a couple of ways. They're wrong in the sense that they talk about it as something that we always were, and we just needed to realize that we were, and that's going to be closer to the New Age teaching. The other thing is that they're boastful about it, and they start declaring their own will and stuff like that. I declare, I declare, I declare. And Jesus didn't do that. Jesus was fully God, and yet he never went around saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. He only really said, I will, in terms of his resurrection. And of course, you're going to have in the new covenant, you're going to have the Father raised him from the dead, the Spirit raised him from the dead, and he raises himself from the dead. So he is giving the account of who actually raises the body of Christ from the dead to all three persons of the Godhead. Okay? So it's important that he raises himself up by his own authority, because that's a major testimony that he is God. Okay? But he doesn't go around saying, I am God, and I declare, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't do that, okay? The reason is because, yes, he is God, but he's also being an example for us when we become Elohim, okay? Now, when people think, well, you can't say gods, you can't use the words gods. I'm sorry, but the word Elohim is gods, okay? And so he says in Psalms, and Jesus is going to quote this, did I not say to those to whom the word came, you are gods? Okay, now he says that, and of course, who did the word come to? Well, the word comes to us. We're born again of the divine nature, that's God, of God, of God's own nature. And Jesus becomes the firstborn of many brethren. So just as Jesus condescends to put on human flesh and then permanently unites with that human flesh in his resurrection to be forever the God-man, well, he brings us up to become God-men as well. So he's the firstborn of many brethren, okay? And so we become as much gods in terms of our nature as Jesus is, okay? Now, that's something that ultimately isn't fulfilled until the resurrection, and we don't go around declaring things. We're walking like Jesus walked, okay? And so because Jesus didn't boast, he didn't go around saying, I am God. He didn't go around saying, I declare, look what I can do. We don't do that either. And so the televangelists are in error by doing that, but they're in much bigger error by teaching it as a matter of knowledge and gaining knowledge of who you are versus being born again and regenerated in a new nature. Okay? So I don't have a problem with saying we as Christians become gods theologically. Just don't go around saying I'm a little god, I'm a god, look what I can do. Okay? That's stupid, and it's not the character of God, okay? God showed up and he didn't act like that, okay? God doesn't go around boasting I'm God. That's what Satan does. That's what Lucifer does. That's what the Antichrist does, okay? So anyways, so we become part of the God kind, okay? And that's why the servant needs to go and get of his own kind to be the wife to his son Isaac, who's the son of the promise, his only begotten son, he calls him, okay? His only begotten son, even though he has another son, okay? Because he's a type of Christ. And so he says, the servant says unto him, peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I need bring thy son again unto the land from where thou camest? And Abraham said, beware that thou bring not my son thither again. In other words, don't bring my son to my kindred. You need to go and find this wife. But he's saying, he said, for the Lord God of heaven, which I took from my father's house, and from the land of my kindred, which spake unto me, that sware unto me, saying, unto thy seed I will give this land, he will send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife for my son from thence. And if the woman will not be willing to follow me, then that shall clear thee from my oath, only bring not my son thither again. So Abraham doesn't know if he's going to die soon. He's actually going to live another 50 years after this. Or it might be 40 years after this, but he's telling him, don't go take my son to them, okay? And he's really trying to protect his son. He seems to be protective of Isaac, but he knows the promises for the seed to come through him, so that's why he's saying in faith that God's going to send his angel to get him a wife, because my seed has to be multiplied through him, so it's going to happen. Okay, and that's why he says to him, if it doesn't happen, you're free from your oath. In other words, a servant can just give up, but he's confident that it's going to happen. And so then he says, and so the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master and departed for all his goods. Now, I would assume Abraham's had, because he sends servants to different places to get stuff to trade. Abraham probably has a camp again, probably in the low thousands. He's had 300 trained soldiers from the days of Lot, which is really, so this is, Isaac is 37, which means Abraham is 137, which means he had 300 soldiers, trained soldiers in his house 50 years earlier. So you do the math on that they've brought up another generation, okay? And maybe some of his slaves he gave freedom or sold, but you probably wouldn't. They would probably stay in his household. So Abraham probably has a camp of several thousand now, okay? And then he probably has a small little army of probably 1,000 or more men with him now, okay? Obviously, some of these guys got old, but Abraham himself is living to be 187, and a lot of these people that are born in his house, they're going to still live to be decently old. So he's got a squad going on, okay? That's why they're calling him a mighty prince. He's no, like the Bible talks about his family like it seems small, but it's really just focusing on who he is. But he's a straight up king. He's a sheik, he lives in tents. He doesn't have cities, but he's got a squad. You're not going to mess with this squad, okay? The Hittites aren't messing with him, okay? The Amorites are his allies, and nobody's messing with him, okay? So basically Eleazar, his servant, they're going to keep calling him the servant. So you have the father, the son, and the servant. And again, you're using 3 men as examples. So I'm not going to be so dogmatic about the type of Father, Spirit, Son is father, mother, and child. That I say the Spirit is a female, and it must be defined as a woman because the typology uses men and women. Okay. The Father, Spirit, and Son, think about it as describing more function than gender, if that makes sense. So obviously the Son is obviously a human man. He becomes a man, right? So he's a physical male forever, okay? But the Father and the Spirit are both spirits, but they have a relationship to each other like a husband and wife and like a master and a servant. Okay, so those of you who really hate this women subordinate thing, you need to understand that the Father and the Spirit have a relationship with each other that is both master and servant and husband and wife. And that's why Peter's going to point out how Sarah called Abraham her Lord, okay, which means your master, okay? So that is the proper relationship between husbands and wives because it's the relationship between the Father and the Spirit. So I want you guys to understand that when I'm going to keep talking about the Spirit as a type of wife and mother, I'm saying that's because women in the family unit are meant to represent the attributes of the Spirit. The design of the human family is meant to represent the Godhead functionally, okay? So he says he made his camels to kneel down without the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed to this day to show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of men in the city come out to water. And let it pass that the damsel to whom I say, let down thy pitcher, and I pray thee that I may drink. And she shall say, drink, and I will have thy camels drink also. Let the same be that she that is appointed for my servant Isaac, and thereby shall I know that thou hast shown kindness to me, my master. Okay, this is really important here because remember, he's the type of the Holy Spirit. And the woman who is going to be the bride of Christ is the woman who gives him water at the well, okay? So you have this pattern keep coming back. Remember, Jacob is going to meet Rachel at the well. You're going to have Moses is going to meet his wife at the well. Then you're going to have Jesus meet the Samaritan woman at the well, okay? And she is actually a type of the bride of Christ. She's part Jew, part Gentile. She gives Jesus water, and Jesus gives her the Holy Spirit. Okay? And then she goes out telling everybody about Jesus. She's the first evangelist in the gospel narrative. Okay? She goes and gets all the Samaritans and tells them about, the guy who convicted her of her sin. Okay? So this woman at the well motif, you want to look for that in the Bible. You're going to find it again and again and again. It's a major type of the bride of Christ, okay? And so then it says, and it came to pass before he had done speaking that Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her. So notice how they say, a virgin, neither had any man known her, okay? They're being very specific, and here's why. This word, virgin, says maid or virgin, okay? It says Bethulah, okay? Neither had any man known her, okay? Can mean maid, can mean virgin. And a maid can be a young woman. There's another word, alma, that can be like a young woman. But it was assumed that a young woman was a virgin. Well, here they're being very specific. She's a virgin, nor had any man known her. So she's not just a young woman, she's being very specific that no man has ever known her. Okay? Why? Because Christ is coming back for a virgin bride. Remember, we're a new creature whose sins aren't counted against them. Okay? Christ is coming back for a virgin bride. Okay? So it says, and David ran to meet her and said, Lord, I pray thee, drink a little water at my pitcher. And he's like, oh, I just pray for that. And he's like, and she said, oh, confirmation. And she said, drink, my Lord. And she hasted and let down the pitcher upon her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had done giving him a drink, she said, I will draw waters for thy camels also until they've come drinking. And he's like, oh, she's a giver. She's hospitable. She's even giving my camels something to drink. I like this one. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher through the trough and ran again into the well to draw water and drew for his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, to wit, whether the Lord had made his journey prosperous or not. Now, again, he's prayed that the woman who gives him a drink is the right woman, but he's got to double check. He's got to make sure she's not some foreign, like, Aramean. Oh, crap. And it came to pass, as the camels were done drinking, that the man took a golden earring, a half a shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands, 10 shekels of gold, and says, whose daughter are there? So he pulls out some jewelry, gold jewelry. Dang. Whose daughter are you? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? And she said unto him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare to Nahor. Now this is something I want to point out. He is a stranger. He is a strange man, and this is a young virgin girl. So think about the Muslim culture and how our women are covered up head to toe, right? If you guys have a chance to show this to a Muslim, they're covered up head to toe. We don't let anyone talk to them. Think about the Jews. We don't let men talk to our women. We keep them all separate. We keep them all shrouded, right? This is how they consider purity, okay? But look how it was in the days of Abraham. This is a young virgin girl. She's talking to a strange man. Now, it's in the well, it's in the public square. It's not in some unsafe place, okay? You even if you got a camel, it's kind of hard to run off with someone's girl there, but you're in a place where somebody's going to rise up and kill your butt, right? Like if you try, right? But the point is she's not like veiled and not talking to a man. Okay? And she says to him, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare to Nahor. And moreover, she said to them, we have both straw and provender enough and room to lodge in. So she's like, yep, you can come stay with us. And the man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord. And he said, blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not left destitute my master of his mercy and this truth. I being in the way, the Lord led me to the house of my master's brethren. And the damsel ran and told her mother's house of these things. Told them of her mother's house of these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. Now, this is the same Laban who Jacob's going to deal with. And Laban ran out to the well. It's pretty awesome how you see this story unfold, and all of a sudden Laban's going to be a scoundrel later. But back then, he runs out to the well. And it came to pass, When he saw the earring and the bracelet upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus came the man to me, he came unto the man, and he stood by the camels at the well. Now notice this. He says it takes a golden earring, half a shekel of weight. I thought he said that he had pierced her nose. Let me see. So the NRSV says a gold nose ring. The NIV says a gold nose ring. The KJV says an earring. So which is it? Nexem. It says a nose ring, earring, jewel. So it could be any. Okay. An earring is this is going to be important. It's a type of seal, and you're going to see this earring as a type of seal that is used in a slave could be pierced in the ear to let them know that they're somebody's slave. Okay, so this whole thing goes to this promise that basically you would pierce your ear against their doorpost, and that would make you permanently a member of their house. Sealed. So in other words, you're a servant, but you're a servant who's basically you're saying I'm binding myself permanently to this house, and it's a type of being in Christ. Okay, and so like if a servant like had a master, and a master had given a wife and the kids, and he's a good master, and this servant is better off being this guy's servant than he is his own free man, he would get himself sealed on that person's doorpost. Well, he is sealing Rebekah, okay? And whether it's an earring or a nose ring, I do not know. I'm not going to contend over that. But he's sealing her, okay? He's sealing her like we're sealed to belong to Christ, okay? And so it says, it came to pass when he saw the earring and the bracelets upon his sister's hands, he heard the words of Rebekah's sister, saying, Thus the man spoke to me, and came into the man, behold, he stood by the camels at the well, and he said, Come in, thou blessed of the Lord. Wherefore standest thou without? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he ungirded his camels, and gave straw and provender for the camels, and the water to wash his feet, and the man's feet that were with him. So notice you don't have his dad there. This is Laban, her brother, speaking for her. Why? Remember how Abraham was, Nahor lived to be, I think he lived to be like 70, and it says he begot the three sons, okay? So you're going to have Nahor, you're going to have Haran, and you're going to have Abraham, okay? Well, Abraham, he actually has 60 years later. So there's a 60-year age difference between Abraham and his oldest brother. The middle brother dies, okay? And then the older brother has probably died of old age, because if Abraham's 137, that would put him upstairs of 190, and Abraham only lives to be about 180 something, okay? So his older brother's probably died of old age, and so that would make Laban, his oldest son, the head of the house. And so that's why Laban is the one giving away the sister, okay? So when Rebekah is going to send Jacob back to Laban, remember, that's the guy who gave her away to be Isaac's wife in the first place. So he says, and the man came into the house, and he ungirded his camels. So that's interesting. He's going to say, is there room in your father's house? And it's the brother. The father's not there. It doesn't mention that he's dead, but he's just not there. But it's still his father's house. So the man came into the house, ungirded the camels, gave straw and provender for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the men's feet that were with him. And there was set meat before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have told mine errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and the Lord has blessed my master greatly, and he's become great, and he's given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and men servants and maid servants and camels and asses. Okay, a lot of them. And Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old. So Laban would probably know who Sarah is, because remember, Sarah is also it would be basically his father's aunt, because she's the half sister. Okay, so he's saying, Sarah, my master's wife, bare son to my master when she was old. And if this is Laban, if Laban is his firstborn son, he was probably alive when Abraham and Sarah left. Okay? And unto him that he has given all he has. And my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but thou shalt go into my father's house and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son. And I said to my master, Peradventure a woman will not follow me. And he said, Lord, before whom I walk, I will send his angel with thee, prosper on thy way, and thou shalt take my wife from the son of my kindred and from my father's house. Then shalt thou be clear from this my oath, when thou comest to my kindreds, and if they give not thee one, thou shalt be clear from my oath. And this day I came unto the well, and the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if now I do prosper in the way I go, behold, I stand at the well of water, and it shall come to pass that when a virgin comes and draws forth water, I say to her, Give me, pray thee, a little water in the pitcher to drink. And she say to me, Both drink thou, and I will draw for thy camels. Let it be the woman who the Lord has appointed my master's son. He's saying, This is what I prayed, and she did it. And so that's why I came and I put the earring upon her face. Okay, so that's probably why they think it's a nose ring, because he put it on her face. So he actually goes to her. Now, I would assume she's probably already got piercings, are kind of common back then. I would assume he's not piercing her nose right there, that he's actually putting the piercing in her. Okay, anyways, he said, And I bowed down my head and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter to his son. And now, if you will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. So this is an important thing with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's only Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that this is important for. But remember, God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? They're all getting a wife from their father's house, okay? So Abraham marries his half-sister, Isaac marries his cousin, and then Jacob marries his cousin. But they're marrying in the fatherly sense, could be grandfather, anything, their father's daughter, just like Jesus is going to marry his father's daughter, okay? That's why that happens. It's not because they're just big on keeping it in the family, okay? This is a specific typology there. God's driving all this. So then Laban and Bethuel. Who's Bethuel? Oh, it says the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son. Oh, I'm sorry. So Bethuel is Nahor's son, and Laban is her brother. So Laban is actually would be a grandson then. So Bethuel would be probably the one that knew Sarah when she left, but Bethuel is not mentioned. And Laban and Then Laban and Bethuel answered. So I was mistaken about his father not being there. Okay. So then Bethuel answered and said, The thing that proceeded from the Lord we cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, in other words, I can't, question that. I'm not going to cast shade on that. That's basically what he's saying. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as the Lord has spoken. So it's like she could be the master's wife. And it came to pass, when Abraham's servant heard the words, he worshipped and bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, gave them to Rebekah. And he gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things, and they did eat and drink. The men were with them and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning and said, Send me away to my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the damsel abide with us for a few days, at least 10. After that she shall go. So in other words, let us have kind of a going away party. I mean, she's going to go away from our house. We're probably not going to see her ever again, or not often. So let's have a going away celebration at least. 10 days. He said to them, Hinder me not, seeing that the Lord has prospered my ways. Send me my way that I may go to my master. In other words, this is an urgent errand, okay? My master's old. I don't want him to be dead by the time I get back. And they said, We will call the damsel and inquire of her mouth. So it's ultimately her decision. And they called Rebekah and said to her, that Wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent Rebekah their sister and her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. And it blessed Rebekah, and he said unto her, Thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and spread and let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. So notice, thy seed, the seed of a woman, okay, possess the gate of those that hate them. So don't think this seed of a woman thing is not, again, it's just, it means descendants. But let thy seed possess the gates of those that hate them. Remember, how Jesus says that your descendants will possess the gates of their enemies. He's saying this is Laban and that family, Abraham's brother's household, is saying, let her seed possess the gate of their enemies. So notice it's the seed of the woman. Okay. And then Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels and followed the man. And the servant Rebekah went his way, and Isaac went from the well to Lahairoi and dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went to meditate in the field in the eventide, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. She jumped off the camel. But she said to her servant, what man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, it is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. Ooh, I want to make it exciting. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done, and Isaac brought her into his mother's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, just like that. Boom. Can we have a ceremony? Yeah. You purchased her for me. She's my wife. His mom's been dead for 3 years. He's like, I'm looking for some womanly comfort. Stat. ASAP. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Okay? So Isaac is going to be 37 years old when he gets married. And he's not going to have kids for like 20 years. Remember, Abraham is still alive when Jacob and Esau are going to get too close to teenage. Okay? And then by the time I think you have the Jacob and Esau narrative, I think Abraham's dead by then. Okay? So, then Abraham took his wife. Her name was Keturah, and she bare him Zimram, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Okay? You're going to hear these people mentioned later on. Job, one of his friends is going to be a Shuaite. Okay? One of his is going to be Eliphaz the Temanite, which is going to be an Edomite. One of them is going to be a Shuaite, okay, which is going to be a descendant of Abraham. Most of these people you're not going to hear much about, but Midian you will. The Midianites are going to become the predominant Arabian tribe that's going to be right on Israel's southern border, Sinai Peninsula, or the Sinai region, which is where Neam is. That's where they're going to dwell. And so they're going to have a lot of dealings with them and fightings with them in the period of the Judges, okay? By the time you get to Gideon is going to subdue them, and they're never going to rise to give Israel guff again. Okay, they probably became a pretty dominant part of the tribe, at least in that region. But by the time they're decimated by Gideon, they're going to be one of about, I think it's like 30 tribes in the Arabian Peninsula. All the Ishmaelite tribes are going to be there, all the Edomite tribes are going to be there, and all the tribes of Joktan are going to be there. Okay, and so they're going to have competition, and they're not going to be able to get powerful enough to mess with Israel again. Okay, so this is in Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan. These guys are going to be important because you're going to hear these guys mentioned. Remember, they're going to be Southern Arabs. They're going to be in the region of the Saudi Arabians and the people who are going to be on that western coast. And these are going to be people who have a vested interest in passage of ships through the Red Sea. And so you're hearing about this right now with the Houthis taking out all these ships in the Red Sea so that it's messing up world supply chain flows. We're going into World War III. We're going into the Gog-Magog invasion. Sheba and Dedan is going to be with the merchants of Tarshish, which is going to be the British, okay? And remember, the British is a sea empire, and so most of their people are going to trade by sea. You're going to have America, Canada, Australia, South Africa, for a time, India, and then England. That's where the merchants of Tarshish go. So the merchants of Tarshish, Sheba and Dedan, are going to protest the and kind of be on Israel's side in the Gog-Magog invasion. That's going to be your Arabs, and that's going to be your Anglo-American establishment, okay? It says the sons of Dedan were the Asherim, the Letushim, the Lehumahim. The sons of Midian, Eph and Epher, Hanak and Abida and Eldah. These were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. So Isaac possessed everything, but unto the sons listen to this. Unto the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts. and he sent them away. So I would assume, notice he calls her a wife here, and then concubine here, okay? So the concubines, I'm going to assume, are going to be Hagar and Keturah, okay? He's going to call them concubines, but he says wife. He took a wife, okay? So Abraham technically has 3 wives, Sarah, Hagar, and Keturah. They're his wife, but they're called concubines because a concubine is not necessarily at the level of a wife, okay? She's number 1 wife. And he only has Hagar for a little bit. And Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac's son where he dwelled eastward to the east country. And these are the 8 years of Abraham's life in which he lived 103 years. So 185 is how old he was. Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man full of years, and he was gathered to his people. So his father lives to be 205. Abraham lives to be 30 years younger than that. And you're seeing the ages trickle down until you get to Joseph's generation. He's going to live to be 137, and then after that it's going to trickle down to about 120. So you remember, in the beginning of this process at the flood, the Spirit is saying, I'm not going to strive with man forever, but his days will be 120 years, okay? If you do everything right, in terms of health, in terms of diet, in terms of living conditions, you can live to be 120, okay? We don't do everything right, and so people live to be 70, 80 if by strength, and Moses is going to note that. But Moses lives to be 120, and there are still people living to be 120 today, okay? It's rare, but it still happens, okay? So it's trickling down. It just went from basically before Abraham, it goes from 600 years, that's going to be Noah's sons, down to Abraham's, his father's 205, now he's 185, okay? Isaac's going to drop like another 30, 40 years. Joseph's going to drop like another 10, 15 years, and then it's going to keep dropping, okay? But it's slowing down. The droppage is slowing down, okay? And so it says, and his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron and Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre, in the field that Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth. There Abraham buried Sarah his wife. And it came to pass, after the death of Abraham, that God blessed Isaac, and Isaac dwelt in the land of Laharai. And these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, with whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generations. The first of Ishmael, Nebajoth, Kedar, Abdil, and Mishbam. Now, you're not going to really hear about these guys because they're not really going to fight with them until you start to hear about these guys in prophecies. You're going to hear prophecies about them. And then Kedar, I know, is going to be one of them. Kedar is going to be the region around Neam. Okay, that's going to be an important one. Nebajoth is going to be one of them, and I forget how they're mentioned. And then you're going to hear about these guys when Israel is coming back in the days of Babylon and stuff like that. These are going to be some of the people that give them guff, okay? The Ishmaelites, the Edomites. They're going to mix and mingle, and Arab means mixed people, okay? Because they're going to mix and mingle and trade, and they're crossing through the desert, and there's going to be all these camps, and there's going to be all these marital relationships, so they're going to be a mixed people, okay? But basically, they're mostly Hebrews. Your Arab Peninsula, with the exception of the south, is mostly Hebrews because they're all descended from Heber, through Joktan, through Abraham, or through Esau. Okay? So he says, and Mishma and Duma and Massa. Duma is going to be mentioned in a prophecy. This is going to be in Isaiah, I know. Hadar is going to be mentioned in a prophecy. Tema is Nephish and Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael. So there's 12 of them by their towns, by their castles, 12 princes according to the nations. So they're all going to have their own towns in the Arabian desert with castles. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years, and he gave up the ghost and he died. So see, the ages are dropping, right? But notice he lives to be 137, and I think Isaac still lives to be close to like 170. He's not taking care of his health as well, okay? He's got a couple of wives, but anyways, it says they dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which is before Egypt. And so again, I would assume there's a Havilah in India, probably, because there's multiple people named Havilah. But there's a Havilah this is probably Yemen. Yemen is known for gold there. Remember, it says Havilah, the gold there is good. Yemen is full of gold, okay? Havilah to Shur. I don't know where Shur is. Okay, so they're saying that Shur is in the actual Sinai Peninsula. So what they're saying is they basically are dwelling as far north as the Sinai Peninsula. Up in here. Basically across the Arabian Desert on down through Yemen, it looks like. So in other words, the land that is before Egypt. So sure that is before Egypt, because that would be the start of the Egyptians' turf. As thou goes towards Assyria, and he died in that place, and all of his brethren. So he's saying, he's actually pointing to it and saying it's Egypt as you go towards Assyria. So Egypt extends towards Assyria, and the northeast of Egypt is going to be the Sinai Peninsula. So that's where Shur is. And he dies in the presence of all his brethren. So that's kind of, notice they close off Ishmael's story. Now, Ishmael's 13 years older than Isaac, but he lives to be 137. So they just basically add his story, because those people in Moses' day, by the time he's taking them out of Egypt, they are going to be surrounded by these people. So they have a record of where these people came from and how they are related to them, because how they are meant to deal with them has to do with the fact that they're related to them, okay? And so they're going to be there, and then it says these are the generations of Isaac. Now we're going to start on Isaac's story officially, okay? This is kind of closing off Abraham's story, because obviously Ishmael is his son. Now we're in Isaac's story, and he says these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac when Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife. Oh, so he's 40. So Sarah dies when he's 37, and somewhere in that 3-year period. So he's 40 when he takes Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Paddan Aram. So notice he's called a Syrian because he lives among the Arameans. The sister of Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord entreated him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceives. She was barren for 20 years. And said the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? Okay, now this is important. You Calvinists, you Romans 9 people, why is it important? Okay, one of the biggest things your Protestants do very poorly is they go and read the New Testament and they don't point you back to the Old Testament and the whole context of the passages, whether it's in Genesis or in the law or in the prophets, and understand the bigger thing that they're saying. And so they take a lot of things out of context, okay? So notice there's 2 children struggling together within her, and she's saying why, and she went to inquire of the Lord, okay? So she's praying, seeking the Lord, trying to figure out why. And the Lord said to her, okay, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 nations and 2 manner of people. Notice what he's saying, 2 nations and 2 manner of people. He is not talking about Jacob I loved and Esau I hated. Like, there's 2 kids in you and one of them I just hate. No reason, nothing he did. That's just how I am because I'm impassible. And I decided to, I need to show off my glory. And part of that is the fact that I'm just permanently pissed off at nothing. Okay, God's not saying that. What he is saying is there's 2 kinds of people, okay? And this is a type, because there's going to be people who are of the flesh that just will sell their soul further to feed their belly like Esau did, who's full of lust and fornication. And then there's a kind of people that are like, well, they're dishonest too, but they eventually repent. Okay? And they're all sinners, but some of them are going to change and other ones are not going to change. Okay? There's 2 manner of people. There's 2 nations, 2 manner of people. They shall be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other. Notice he doesn't say which one. And the elder shall serve the younger. Why is this important? This is so important. Because Jesus is the younger. He's the second Adam, but he was there first. This theme is going to appear again and again and again in the Bible. The younger serves the older. Why? Because Jesus was there first, but he comes into his incarnation second. Okay? That's why the elder serves the younger. Likewise, our newborn, new creation is going to be born of the divine nature that was there first before the creation, but is going to rule over our old nature, which is our flesh. Okay? This theme needs to be throughout the Bible. It's about putting to death the flesh by the Spirit. It's about the ultimate triumph of those who are born again of the divine nature in Christ over those who refuse the divine nature and cling to this world and want to persist in their sin. Okay? And he says, so two manner of people will be separated from their bowels. The one people will be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. This is the ultimate destination. The ultimate fulfillment of this is in the millennium, when the children of God are going to be ruling over the unregenerate for 1,000 years. And then that's their last call. If they don't repent by that time, you're going to hell. That's it. Okay? And so when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. This is important. This word red means Admonai, okay? Reddish, okay? This Adam was made of red clay. Okay, which is why the name Adam is there. He's made of this red clay, Admonai. Okay, so Edom and Adam are going to be related. Okay, Edom is a type of the Adamic nature, the old nature, the flesh, the clay of the earth that we're made of. Okay, and so he says he was red all over like a hairy garment. In other words, he came out a Scottish dwarf. Okay, like he came out looking like Gimli, with a full freaking beard and hair all over his shoulders and hair all over his back. And this is just what he was. He just came out looking like a gremlin or something. Okay? He was just hairy. I mean, he's so hairy. This is interesting. This is why I think Esau's in Kindu. Jacob is going to put skins on his flesh to mimic Esau. Okay? If you read the Epic of Gilgamesh puts hairy skins on himself to mourn in Kindu. That is so much alike it's scary, okay? I think Gilgamesh is Nimrod, Esau is in Kindu, and Esau killed Nimrod. That's what I think that's happening. That's just my guess, but we'll see. So he says, he was red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Esau just means rough. The original sense of handling, rough, okay? But when he sells him his birthright for that red porridge, they're going to call him Edom, because they're going to call him birthright seller for red stuff. You like that red stuff, don't you? Okay? You lost the inheritance of Abraham's massive, massive empire that he's building, because it's going to keep growing under Isaac. But you got your red porridge. How do you feel, buddy? How do you feel, buddy? You're a sucker. And so he said, after that his brother came out, and his hand took on Esau's heel, and his name was Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years when he bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. What does this word plain man mean? Gentleman, coupled together, perfect, plain, undefiled, upright, pious. Specifically, gentleman. He was a gentleman dwelling in tents. He was more of a scholar. So these guys were hunters. One's a hunter and one's a scholar. Okay. One is basically an Arabic scholar-looking mofo, and the other one is just a roughneck. He is from Wisconsin. And he's just hairy, and he's just a Scotsman. He's William Wallace, that's who he is, okay? He wants his freedom. And this is what he says, and Isaac loved Esau because he did, okay, hold on, okay. So he said after his brother came out, and his hand took on Esau's heel, his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 when he bore them. So this is 20 years later, 20 years after he marries Rebekah. So he's grabbing his heel, and his name means heel catcher. So a heel catcher is like somebody who supplants you. So think about like pulling the rug out from under you, or in wrestling, right? You grab their heel and you pull their legs out from under them. Okay, that's what his name means. Esau means rough, but this guy is just like his brother is. He's the tougher one, but his brother's the slicker one. He's the more clever one. Okay. And so as the boys grew, Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents, and Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay? Isaac loved Esau more because he brings me that good meat. He brings me summer sausage. He brings me beef jerky. He brings me steaks. I like Esau better. Okay? His father loves according to his belly. I wonder where he got that from. I wonder where Esau sold his birthright for porridge from. Okay? And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint." Oh, we missed a story. Apparently not. Jacob and Esau are alive here. Okay. Let's see here. And so he said, and Jacob sawed pottage. In other words, he made a stew. He sawed pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with some of that red pottage," that red stuff. "Give me some of that red stuff. Give me some of that chili." He made a pot of chili. "For I am faint." And therefore his name was called Edom. Okay? Chili. All right, chili. And Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I'm at the point to die. I just got done killing Nimrod, and I fled all the way here." That's speculation, but that's what I think happened. "And what profit shall it bring this birthright to me? I need some food." Stat. And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. "Oh, you made a vow before the Lord. Shouldn't have done that." Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage and lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. And Esau despised his birthright. So notice he says this. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Okay? Moses, by the Holy Spirit, is pointing this out. Now, this is probably a story that they've had in their tradition, maybe even written down, but Moses is giving you divine commentary on it. Okay? Just like the apostles are going to do later on to the prophets and stuff. He's saying God adjudicated that Esau despised his birthright. He didn't look at it as like Esau was really hungry. No, wherever he came from and got to, he got there, okay? If he went that far, he could get not that much farther and get to his mom's house and have some food. But he gets there, and he's just like, "I need to eat now." And he sells his birthright. He's careless, okay? So he says, so now this is after this. After Jacob and Esau are born, he's going to give away his wife again. This is important. After the distinction between Jacob and Esau, we're going to have another captivity. What does that sound like? Abraham giving away Sarah is the Jews going to Egypt. Abraham giving away Sarah the second time is the Jews going to Babylon. Isaac giving away Rebekah the third time is the Jews going into captivity after 70 AD. After the distinction is made between Jacob and Esau, okay? This is what Romans 9 is talking about. Paul is anticipating the destruction of the Jews when he is comparing the Jews to Pharaoh, and he's comparing God's great patience, even though they got it coming. And if you read his letter to the Thessalonians, which he wrote like 10 years before Romans, he's saying the Jews are filling up the measure of their sin, and finally he's going to write Hebrews. He knows this is coming because Christ prophesied it, okay? He knows the destruction of the Jews is coming, but they're building up, they're filling up the measure of their wrath. They are Esau, and he is pointing them out as being like Esau, and how God is waiting for them to get so bad that their destruction is going to be epic, and the whole world's going to be talking about it for years and years and years and years and years, and they are, okay? So this is the third captivity. Notice you have the distinction between the type of Christians and the type of unregenerate Jews, okay? And now we have another captivity, okay? So it says there's a famine in the land besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. What do you have before the destruction of Jerusalem? You have a famine, global famine. Agabus is going to prophesy that. And then Isaac went to Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, in Gerar. The same person. This is the same person, Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, in Gerar. That his father gave. It would have been like 60 years earlier. So this guy, let's say he was a king there, but people are still living to be 180 years old if they're healthy, okay? Well, 60 years earlier, he could have been like 40 years old, let's say, when he takes Sarah. Sarah's in her 90s. She's still good looking. Apparently, she's still fine. In 90, she is still hot. Okay? Take Sarah. Remember, people are living to be, I think she lives to be how old? Like 137. But she's still hot at 90. Because she hasn't had any kids. And she be walking. She's fine. Okay. And then this same guy, he's like, man, that girl is good looking. She kind of reminds me of this good looking woman I kind of got together with but never really got to seal the deal. I'm going to take her to be my wife. I forgot. The Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. So God sends him here. This is hilarious. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto his seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham thy father. So Gerar is not in the Gaza Strip, but it is around Philistine territory. This is a Philistine king that's a little bit inland from there. And he says, and I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of the heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Notice he's saying this to him before or after Jacob and Esau are born, okay? So he is going to be 60. Excuse me. He's going to be 60. Rebecca is going to be, she was a young maid when he was 40, so let's assume she's like, I don't know, at least 20 years younger than him. 20, let's say 25 years younger than him, okay? So he's 60, she's going to be like 35. She's hot. She's had a couple kids, but she's still hot. And he says, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and the law, and Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, she is my sister. For he feared to say she is my wife, because he's a punk like his dad. Lest, say he, the men of the place should kill me, for Rebekah, she was fair to look upon. She's fine, okay? Now, I don't get this, because he's got Abraham's house now, which means he's got all Abraham's servants. He's got a squad, but apparently he's so scared his wife is so fine, she's Helena frickin' Troy, that they're going to come storm the castle and kill him to get her, okay? She's apparently super hot. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. Okay? So notice she says she's a sister. He never takes her. Okay? He says she's a sister. And he sees him playing around. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, come here, kid. This reminds me of something that happened back in the day. She is definitely your wife. Of a surety, she is your wife. That girl's totes your wife, son. And how sayest thee she's my sister? And Isaac said to him, because I said, lest I die for her. I'm like, what is it with you people? And Abimelech said, what is this thou that hast done of us? One of the people might surely have lain with thy wife, and you should have brought guiltness on us. Notice the Philistines of Gerar are righteous. They're Philistines, but they're righteous. They fear God enough to go, if we had accidentally slept with your wife, we would have been guilty before God. And he fears God. Remember, this guy's already had this stuff. He's like, who are you? Oh, I'm Isaac. He doesn't tell himself he's Isaac, the son of Abraham. Boy, I ought to. These people. And Abimelech charges people, say, who touches this man or his wife shall be put to death. This is the same guy who shamed Sarah and was just like, your husband is a look the other way to you, okay? A punk. And Isaac sowed in the land and received that same year 100-fold. So he's just like, I'm just going to chill here for a year. I'm going to sow some seed and make 100 times as much money from my seed I sowed. How's that? And the man waxed great and went forward and grew till he became great, for he had for his possession flocks, herds, a great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. I'd envy him too. This guy shows up and tries to get us in a scam with his wife, makes 100-fold. He's just prospering left and right. For all the wells of his father's servants had digged in the 8 days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. These Philistines are such punks. Remember, what he would do, they've got this wide land, and they've got their cities, and they've got their farms around their land, and he would just send his sheep around, circulating around, pooping on their land, fertilizing their land, and they would eventually grow that land and expand their farms and expand their cities, okay? But he's got all these wells they dig because they're circulating around, and they're watering the sheep and watering themselves as they're circulating around. And these people are like, you know what? We got all kinds of farms. We got cities. We don't need these Bedouins wandering through here, so they stop up all the wells. They don't want this. Why? Because when these people come through, they try to pretend their wives aren't their wives, and they try to get us to hook up with their wives so they can plunder us and try to get us in trouble with God because they're prophets, and they're literally gaming that crap to get our money. So screw these guys, okay? Stop up their wells. And Abimelech says to Isaac, go from us. Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. Notice, he is telling him, this is Isaac, I was scared you're going to kill him. They're like, you are much mightier than we are, okay? You've got all these servants, you got all these herds, you got all these flocks, you got a freaking army in your household, and obviously God's with you, and now you're trying to give your wife away as a pretense to get our money. So get out of here. Get out of here, Isaac. So Isaac departed thence and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again wells of water, which he had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names which his father had called them. So they filled up wells with dirt. They're like, no, you can't have our water. Why? It's groundwater. It's that good stuff, and we want that in our cities, and we want that in our local fields right by our house, and we're sick of you being around here. Get out of here. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found there a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And Esek means strife. And they dug another well, and he strove with it, and he called the name of it Sitnah, which means the name of the well in Pel, just Sitnah. And he removed from thence and digged another well, and they strove not. So he strove with the second well, and on the third well they strove not, okay? In other words, they're giving him crap, trying to stop the well, trying to say it's theirs, it's on their land. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. Rehoboth is going to be in Exodus, it looks like. I don't know. He said, for now the Lord had made room for me, which there should be fruitful in the land. So they're trying to push him out of the land, okay? Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar to Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. So, see how it's the same Phicol, the same chief captain of his army that was there in Abraham's day. Okay, this is the same guy. And he says, Isaac says to him, wherefore come ye to see me, seeing ye hate me, and you have sent me away from you? And they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee, and we said, let there now be an oath betwixt us and betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee. Remember how Abraham makes a covenant with the king of Gerar, okay, not to mess with him, okay? Now Isaac's going to do it. That thou will not do us any hurt, as we have touched thee, and as we have done thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace, that thou art blessed of the Lord. Okay, it's not with all Philistines, but it is with this household of the Philistines in Gerar. So we want to know what happens with these guys, right? And he made them a feast, and they did not eat or drink. And they rose up at betimes in the morning and swore to one another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass that day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well they had digged him. And he said to them, we found water, and we called it Sheba. And the name of it is Beersheba to this day. Beersheba looks like Abraham had a well there, and they had a Beersheba, and now they got a new Beersheba. Okay, might be the same Beersheba, it might be a different Beersheba, but this Beersheba is going to become the Beersheba that's the southernmost city in Israel, in Judah. Okay, and not far from that is going to be the Philistines of Gerar, and my guess is going to be that's the people that David's cool with. That would be my guess. We'll see when we get there. And Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Okay, remember he's a twin with Jacob. Jacob doesn't have any kids yet. He has 2 wives that he gets at age 40. Okay, this is important. Which were a grief to the mind of Isaac and Rebekah. These women are gossiping. These women are drama queens. Always gold diggers. They're just, we don't like them. These Kardashian girls. We don't like these Kardashians. And it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son and said to him, my son. And he said unto him, here am I. And he said, behold now, I am old, and I know not the day of my death. Now notice he's saying his father is old. He's not saying how old he is. But we know Esau, when he's 40, has kids. So we know Isaac had him when he was 60, so Isaac has to be at least 100 now. Okay? He's at least 100 years old. He's going to live much beyond this, but that's how old he at least is. So he says, behold, now I'm old. I know not the day of my death. People's lives are getting shorter. My brother Ishmael lived to be 137, and he died. Okay? Ishmael is probably still alive, actually. Okay? Because Isaac is going to take one of the daughters of Ishmael. Or Esau is going to take one of the daughters of Ishmael. So if he's 100, that would make Ishmael like 115, I think. So it says, now therefore I take, pray thee, the weapons, thy quiver, thy bow, and go out into the field, and take some venison, and make me savory meat, that good stuff. Make me some sizzlers, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Rebekah heard that Isaac spoke to Esau's son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, behold, I have heard thy father speak unto Esau my brother, saying, bring me the venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, bless thee before my Lord. Okay, so here's what he's saying. Notice this is what you get for listening to your women folk. All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies. I have a good idea for you. Yeah, the women in line since Adam all the way down to Sarah have had a long history of having good ideas for their men. Let's hear this, Rebecca. Well, why don't you try to con your dad into thinking you're Esau and giving him his blessing? So that way, not only will you have his birthright, but you'll have his divine blessing from the Lord. How does that sound? Sounds worth it. In other words, God told you that the elder shall rule the younger, and so you feel like you have to go beyond that and lie to make God's will come to pass. Boy, Rebecca, you sound like a Calvinist. I wonder if somebody's going to take your promise that God made to you and turn it into Calvinism later. Yep, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so go now to the flock and fetch me from thence two good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy daughter, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to my father, and he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. Jacob said to his mother, behold, Esau's my brother. He's hairy, man. I'm a smooth man. The guy came out looking like Gimli. He's William frickin' Wallace, and look at me. I look like your average Arab. I got Chinese arms, man. I'm Jackie Chan skinned. Okay, like, and his father peradventure will feel me. He's gonna rub my arms. You know how he likes arm rubbing. He's gonna see. I'm going to seem to him as a deceiver. No, you're not going to seem to him as a deceiver. You're going to actually seem to God as a deceiver, and you're going to get away with it with him. And he'll bring a curse on me and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, I have this awesome idea. I read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and he slapped hairy skin on his arms to mourn for his friend and Kindu. You should try that. And she went and fetched and brought him the water and made the savory meat. Slapped some skins on his arm, and his dad is apparently like not only blind but also incredibly lazy to realize, hey, these don't really feel like human arms. They feel like goat skins or something. And He apparently was smoking weed or something. He's just not too bright. Remember, his dad was having kids at his age. And Isaac's just like dirt. And she put the skins of the kids on the goats of his hands and on the smooth of his neck. Isaac is pretty much only there as a type, man. He doesn't really accomplish anything. He's rich. He's basically the only son of a super rich guy. He grows up, he gets old, goes blind. He is not one of the heroes of the faith. He's just there. He's just an object, okay? Kind of like, don't worship Mary. She didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on her. So she put the skins of the kids of the goat in his hands and the smooth of his neck. She gave the Savior meat and the bread and prepared, gave it to Jacob. And went to him and said, "Here I am, my father." And he said, "Here am I, thou art my son." He's like, "Here am I." And Esau's like, "Esau sounds more like this. How come you're like, here am I?" Soft little soft arms. And Jacob said to him, "I am Esau, thy firstborn." I deepened his voice. "I am Esau, thy firstborn." Like Jaden Pinkett Smith trying to sound more like Will and less like Jada. "I have done according to thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, and sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless thee." Isaac says to his son, "How is that you found it so quickly?" That happened real fast. What, did you have some stuff in the fridge? "And behold, the Lord thy God brought it to me." Well, I ordered it on Amazon. I had it delivered to the house. And Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel my son, feel thee." I want to feel your arms. You know I like rubbing your hairy arms. "My son, whether thou be my son Esau or not." It's like, this is suspicious. I want to see if you got hairy arms. And so Jacob went near to his father, and he felt him, and he's like, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but these arms definitely are not goat skins. They're actually human arms." "Sure you want to feel around for a thread or something holding them on?" Nope, definitely Esau. They're hairy. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brothers Esau, and he blessed them. And he said, "Art thou Esau, my son?" He's like, "I am." And he said, "Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee." And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and brought him wine, and he did drink. And his father Isaac said to him, "Come now and kiss me, my son." And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment. Remember, he's wearing Esau's cloak, okay? And he blessed him, and he said, "See the smell of my son, the smell of the field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore God gave thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and the plenty of the corn and the wine." Notice, the dew of the heaven, the fatness of the earth, the plenty of the corn and the wine. And let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren. Okay? He's treating him like the firstborn. Nations are going to bow down to him. "Let thy mother's sons bow down to thee." My mother's sons bow down to thee. "Cursed be everyone that cursed thee. Blessed be everyone that blesses thee." He is blessing him, prophesying over him. Nations are going to bow down to him. It came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made the end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out for the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from the hunting. And he also made savory meat and brought it to his father and said, "Here I am, father, and let my father rise and eat this of my son's venison, that thy soul may bless me." And he's like, "I already ate." "What? Thanks, but..." And Isaac his father said, "Who art thou?" And he said, "I am merely thy firstborn Esau." And Isaac trembled exceedingly. He knows he's been took. I just prophesied the blessing over these guys. Where is he that take the venison brought to me, that I have eaten of all that thou camest now have blessed him? Yea, he shall be blessed. I have blessed him, he shall be blessed. No takebacks. I'm a prophet, and I prophesied, and there is no takebacksies on this. Okay? That's why you bless and do not curse. Right? Careful what comes out of your mouth. I'm going to have to give account to the Lord, because a lot of stuff comes out of my mouth that probably shouldn't. Maybe that's just why the things in my life that I don't want the way they are the way they are, because my words are coming back. With the measure that you judge, you will be judged. Bless and do not curse, okay? Just careful what comes out of your mouth. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me even also, my father." Oh, and he said, "Thy brother came with subtlety and has taken away thy blessing." Now, this is where Esau messes up. He should have been like, "Oh, I reap what I sowed. I gave away my birthright. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. I was a fool." Now he got my blessing too. What does he say? Is he not rightly named Jacob, supplanter, heel catcher? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birth. Now, he didn't take away your birthright. You gave it up. Okay? And behold, now he has taken away my blessing. He said, you have not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said to Esau, behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren I have given him for servants, and with corn and wine I have sustained him, and what shall I do unto thee, my son? And as Esau said to his father, hast not thou but one blessing, father? Bless me, even also my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and dew of the heaven from above, and thy sword, by thy sword thou shalt live. You're going to be a warlord, a mercenary, and shalt serve thy brother. Notice he said, by thy sword thou shalt live, and shalt serve thy brother. Okay? Well, he is prophesying what's going to happen in the days of David. Okay? David is going to subjugate them, and they're going to essentially be a tributary warlord state to David. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from thy neck. Okay? So that's what's going to happen later on, when after the kingdom is divided. Esau is going to break away. Now, I'm not going to serve you anymore. I'm independent. America. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, in the days of the morning for my father are at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob. He says, as soon as dad is dead, I'm killing this fool. Luckily, his dad stayed alive for a while. And these are the words of Esau, the elder son, which were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. She knows he's going to kill you. He be talking. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice and flee to Laban, my brother in Haran. Ooh, Laban. I know this guy. And tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury turn away. So he's just planning on go there until your brother calms down. Okay? Until thy brother's anger is turned away from thee, and forget which thou hadst done to them, then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I have deprived you also both of you in one day? So she's in on it. Esau hates her. He doesn't want Isaac dead too. And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. Okay? Remember, he has a Hittite and a Hivite. He calls them both daughters of Heth. I don't know why. Oh, no, they are. I'm sorry, they are both Hittites, it says. Basemoth, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite. I thought he had a Hivite wife. I'm sorry, I might have made a mistake here. And he says, such these are of the daughters of the land. What good shall my life do to me? In other words, man, these women make me, these Kardashians make me miserable. Like, I want to kill myself being around these Kardashians. Always the drama and the fat butts and the talking about, like, their foolishness and porn tapes popping up. And women are awful. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said, thou shalt not take a wife for the daughters of Canaan. Okay, you're not going to do what your brother did. Okay, listen. You conned me. I'm happy about that. But your brother was marrying Hittites, and your mom is not happy with that. So, happy wife, happy life. I'm kind of passive. And so, go and rise to Padan and to Bethel, the house of my father's daughter. I should have told Esau to do this, but I was lazy, and that's why I'm blind, and gave away my blessing and birthright. And take thee a wife from thence from the daughters of Laban, my brother's brother, okay? If they had been doing their job right, guess what? Esau would have married Leah, and he would have had a bunch of kids, and Jacob would have married Rebekah, and probably not gotten to a place where she's stealing idols and he curses her to die. Yes, Jacob curses, not Rebekah, but Rachel to die, okay? Without knowing it. And God Almighty bless thee and make thee fruitful and multiply thee, that thou may be a multitude of people. And give thee blessings of Abraham to thee and to thy seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land which thou art a stranger, that God gave to Abraham. So he knows he blessed him, can't take it back. All right, you're going to be the one. I don't like what you did, but you're going to be the one. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. And Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram and take a wife from thence. And that as he blessed him and gave him charge, saying, "Thou shalt not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan." And Esau realized, maybe I shouldn't have gone just impulsively married 2 women in 1 year because I could, trading them for some meat that I hunted or whatever. Okay? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And he realizes, maybe I should have been thinking. Maybe I should have sought my father's blessing and got some counsel on what I was doing instead of just doing my own thing because I'm freaking a roughneck. So Jacob obeyed his father and mother, and he had gone to Paddan Aram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not his father, said, "I will get a 3rd wife." And he went to Ishmael. Notice he's doing everything by himself. He's doing his own thing. He's not seeking the counsel of his mother and father. And he took unto the wives which he had Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth. So Nebajoth is his firstborn. That's the sister of his firstborn son. Okay, to be his wife. So Ishmael probably has multiple wives. That would be my guess. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran, and he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun was set. And he took the stones of that place and put them for pillows and lay down on that place to sleep. And as he dreamed, behold, the ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. Behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, "I am the Lord." So he's looking at a ladder or a stairway to heaven. And God's at the top of the stairs. And he says, "I am the Lord thy God, of thy father Abraham, the God of Isaac." Notice he said, "I am the Lord God. I am Yahovah Elohim of Abraham." I am Yahweh, the God of Abraham thy father. That's how that should read. Okay? I am not the Lord God. I am Yahweh, the God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac, the land in whom thou shalt give seed. Okay? Yahovah, Yahweh, tetragrammaton, whatever. I am the name, the God of Abraham. Okay? He said, the land whereon thou liest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed. So he's somewhere else now. He says he went out from Beersheba, that's where they were in Judah, and he's going up towards Haran, which is going to be in Syria. And he said, "And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Okay? Again, this is the Christ promise. "And behold, I am with thee, and I will keep thee in all the places whither thou goest, and I will bring thee again to the land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee of." And Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not." And he was afraid and said, "How dreadful is this place! This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for pillows and set up a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. Okay? So Bethel is going to be where northern Israel has their southern golden calf, where they're going to have their false priesthood to Baal eventually. Okay? But it's Bethel, named after Bethel Church, which is going to be Baal worship and all kinds of crazy going on. The name of that city, as it was called, was Luz at the first. So it's an actual city where he is, it looks like. It becomes a city, and then it gets changed to Bethel, but it was called Luz. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, "If God be with me and will keep me in..." Notice he's making a vow on his own initiative. God's not. Don't vow unto God, okay? "If God be with me," he already said he would be with you. Why do you need to make a vow on top of that? "If he will be with me and will keep me in this way that I will go," pay attention to this, "and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God." Excuse me? "Then shall Yahweh be my God." He's putting God to the test. But notice what the test is. Bread to eat and raiment to put on. What does God give Jacob's descendants from Egypt to the land of their father again? He gives them manna from heaven. There's your bread. And their clothes don't wear out. There's your raiment. Am I going to be your God now? Well, they like to make oaths and claim they're going to do things. And they're going to do that then. And they're going to do it in the days of Ezra because they think they can keep their end of the bargain. And if God does for me the things that I want, then he's worthy of my worship. Really, is that how that works? I don't think you understand how promises and God being gracious and you just being a recipient of his grace goes. And you think this is like a dealing thing because you like to make deals, Jacob. So that if I come again to my father's in the house of peace, then the Lord will be my God. Then he'll be my God. Really, he's not your God now. He just showed up and gave you a blessing, but you're just like, if he does this for me, you're going to make deals with God. I feel like this is not going to go good for you and your descendants, Jacob. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give a tenth to thee. Boy, this is all starting to sound familiar. Where does tithing come from? Well, it doesn't come from the one time Abraham gave tithes to Melchizedek. It comes from this deal that Jacob made with God, that if God gives bread and raiment to him until he comes back to the promised land, well, then he will give God a tenth of everything. And God does that with his descendants. He gives them manna, and clothes don't wear out until they get to the promised land, and they owe God a tenth for that. Why? Because their forefather thought he was slick and made a deal with God, and God held him to his deal. Okay? That's why Jews have to tithe. Christians don't have to tithe. Jews have to tithe. Christians need to give freely and generously towards the gospel. Okay? Or towards just helping the poor. Just whatever God puts on your heart. We are spirit-led in our giving. They are obligated to give a tenth because their forefather made a deal. And guess what? We are not the children of Jacob. Notice he's not Israel yet. Okay? He's Jacob. That represents the flesh. When you see Israel and Jacob in the prophets, remember, he's talking about the spiritual and the carnal. Okay? Just like when you see Jacob and Esau, spiritual carnal. Isaac and Ishmael, spiritual carnal. Okay? Adam and Christ, spiritual carnal. All right. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and there were flocks of sheep lying out of it, and watered the flocks, and the great stone was on the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, watered the sheep, put the stone on again, and the well in the mouth in its place. And Jacob said, My brethren, whence be ye? And they said, Of Haran are we. Haran. And he said, Know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And he goes, Heck yeah, we do. And he said, Is he well? And he says, He's well. And behold, Rachel, his daughter, cometh with the sheep. And he said, Lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time the cattle should be gathered together. Water the sheep and go feed them. And they said, We cannot until the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. And while he yet spoke with them, Rachel came to his father's sheep, and she kept him. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban his brother, and with the sheep, Laban his mother's brother, Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the mother's well and watered the flock for Laban his brother. And he said, I like women who water stuff. And Jacob kissed her and lifted up his voice, and he wept. She's fine even. And Jacob told Rachel that he was his father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass that Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that she ran to meet him and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to this house, and told Laban all these things. He has traveled from Beersheba in the south of Judah all the way up past the Golden Heights into Haran. Do you know what Haran is? Haran is all the way up in Turkey. Watch this. Watch how far this guy's roamed. And Jacob told Rachel that he was his father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And he ran and told her father. And it came to pass, Laban heard the tidings and ran out to meet him, embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And Laban said, Surely you are bone of my flesh. You look like me. You look like my sister. You're one of us. And Laban said to Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou serve me for naught? What shall thy wages be? In other words, he's like, Oh, you're going to come. My wife told me to, or my mom told me to stay with you. It's like, okay, well, you're going to, you know shepherding, so we're going to put you in charge of some sheep. And he's like, but should you serve me for naught? And Laban had two daughters, and the name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah was tender-eyed. What does tender-eyed mean? Leah was rack-eyed. Tender, soft, faint, weak. Okay? This word rock can mean she had bad eyesight. But it says a calf tender and good. Leah was tender-eyed. It says the children are tender. Okay. Faint-hearted can mean tender. David says, Solomon, my son, is young and tender. Some people would say she had kind eyes. In other words, a soft answer turneth away wrath. A soft. Her primary quality seems to be that she was a kind, empathetic person. But Rachel's hot. He has two women before him. One is a kind, empathetic person, and you can see it right in her eyes, and the other's hot. The other is a little idly, steely-ish, but she's hot. One's a little bit of a pagan, but she's hot. And the other one is kind and empathetic. Not as hot, but kind and empathetic. Which one should I go for, says Jacob. Well, that's easy, the hot one. You go for the hot one. So Jacob says, give me He said, but Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy daughter. I'll work for you for 7 years like a servant if you give me Rachel because she's hot. Leah, who was kind and empathetic, was passed over. She's the older one. And Jacob says, it is better that I give her to thee than I should give her to another man. Abide with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days. Okay? Now, assuming that Jacob is probably in his early 40s. Well, I'm sorry, no. Esau would get married at age 40. Jacob is probably a little older than that. Okay? So he is going to serve for 7 years. And he's going to serve for another 7 years. So he has both of his wives after the 7 years. So he's going to be close to 50 by the time he gets his wives. Okay? His wives are probably young. Leah might be less young. But the fact that she has 6 kids tells me she's no spry chicken. So she is probably going to be like, I would guess under 25. And the younger one is probably going to be much younger than that. Okay? And Jacob says to Laban, give me my wife, and the days are fulfilled that I may go into her. Laban gathered all the men of the place, made a fast, and it came to pass in the evening that she took Leah's daughter and brought her to him, and he went into her. And Laban gave his daughter Leah Zilpah for a handmaid. So in other words, he gives her a servant, but he marries Leah. So it's apparently customary that when you're giving a bride away, you're going to give her away with a servant, so that she's, they probably have some money. And so the handmaid is kind of like, here's your servant. And it came to pass in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and she said to Laban, what is this thou have done to me? Didn't I serve thee for Rachel? Why have you beguiled me? Where I come from, we tell the truth. We are honest. We do not try to deceive people where I come from, says Jacob. And Laban says, it must not be done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Oh, this is starting to feel salty. A little younger before the firstborn. You're saying the firstborn comes first, and so therefore we deceived you because we're all about the firstborn here? Jacob's like, feeling a little recompense. Fulfill her week. Her week. What is this? What is this? This is huge, 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 huge. You have the house of Israel, Jacob, marrying his father's household, but this is essentially a Gentile bride. And he has a week-long wedding feast. Do you think that might be important later on? It might be important. He gets his wife, they do their vows, then he consummates, and then he's asking him to fulfill her week, finish her week. Okay, finish her week-long wedding feast. Okay? Don't shame her. Fulfill the end of the wedding feast, and I'll give thee also for the service which thou shalt serve me yet another 7 years. So I'll give my other daughter too for another 7 years of service. You're going to marry these two sisters. One's empathetic, one's hot. You're going to love this. It's not going to be contentious at all. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and then he gave him Rachel's wife also. So at the end of the 7 years, he has both wives, okay? He's got 2 wives, and they're sisters. And Laban gave Rachel, his daughter, to Bilhah, to the handmaid, to be her maid. So he's got 2 wives, now he's got 2 servant women, okay? This is his entire household. Remember, he doesn't have Isaac's house yet. It's just him. And he's got 2 women, 2 handmaids. This is his household. And he went also into Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served him another 7 years. So he's 14 years gone. He's at least in his mid-50s now. And then the Lord saw that Leah was hated and opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Okay, so God knows that Leah was loved less. Okay, I really don't like her. The other one's hot. That's the one I wanted. So God let her get pregnant first. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, surely the Lord has looked upon my affliction. Now, therefore, my husband will love thee. Now, pay attention to this. Reuben means, see ye a son. Okay? I mean, look, I gave you a son, right? Remember Rahab or something like that? Rahab is to see. And Ben is a son, okay? So Reuben, is a son. It says, surely the Lord looked upon my affliction. So now he's going to love me because I gave him a son first, right? She conceived again, bare a son. She said, because the Lord has said I was hated, he has therefore gave me a son, and his name is Simeon. And Simeon means hearing, because the Lord heard, okay? So see a son, hear. Shema, hear, O Israel, Shema. Simeon's the son. And then he conceived again, bare a son, and he said, now my husband will be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Then you call his name Levi, which means attached. So you have see, a son, heard, attached. And she conceived again and bare another son, and he said, now I will praise the Lord. Notice she's 3 times thinking he's going to love her because she has a son, and he doesn't love her. He loves Leah. And then the 4th son, she says, I will praise the Lord. So notice he says, see a son, heard, attached, or joined, praise. Okay? And he says, therefore she called his name Judah and left off bearing. She had 4 kids. Lickety split. Boom, 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 boom. So let's say 4 years. He's close to 60 now. Got 4 kids with her. So 4 years later, Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children. They'd both been married to him for 4 or 5 years. She has no kids. And she says to Jacob, give me children or else I die. And Jacob's like, I'm giving you seed, woman. Like, clearly I'm fertile. He's like, am I in God's stead? Am I an Elohim who had withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? Okay, it is not me, the one whose sperms are not working. It's your seed. And he said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go into her, and you shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children. See, so this tradition pre-exists Abraham and Sarah. They don't just come up with this idea. It's a tradition that people had been doing. And she gave Bilhah her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went into her, and he's like, now I'm sleeping with 3 women, and they're all drama. And Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged me and has heard my voice. Remember, her last son was Judah, okay? Now she has a son, next born after Judah. And she says, give me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan, okay? This is the firstborn son that is of a servant, not of one of his wives. And it's Judah and Dan back to back. Judah and Dan back to back. Why is that going to be important? Because that's who Christ and Antichrist is going to come from. Notice Dan comes about in the same way that Ishmael comes about, and Ishmael's kind of a forerunner of Antichrist, and he's a forerunner of carnal Israel. Okay, and Dan is going to be where the Antichrist comes from. So Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, with Elohim, great wrestlings. I don't know why it says great. with great wrestlings. Elohim wrestlings. I don't know why this is great wrestlings. This seems like it's saying with God's wrestlings. So I don't know why Elohim's wrestlings with God's wrestlings. I have wrestled with my sister and have prevailed, and so she called his name Naphtali. Notice how she's like Jacob. Jacob's wrestling with his brother. She's trying to wrestle with her older brother. Like, boy, were these two made for each other. It's almost like Leah should have married Esau and Jacob should have married Rachel, and they were just fit for each other. And Esau is kind of like a roughneck, but he's got this really kind, affectionate wife. And she would have mellowed him out. And Jacob would have had his hands full with Rachel. So she called his name Naphtali, which means my wrestling. Okay? And Leah saw that she had left bearing, and she took Zilpah, her handmaid, and gave Jacob a wife. Okay, so Leah hasn't had a kid in a couple years. Okay? So she's like, oh, I got to keep up because she's catching up with her 2 kids, and I've got 4 kids, and I need him to, so she gives Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah says, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she said, his name is Asher. Okay, it means happy. One of my friends has a kid named Asher. He's happy. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field. So Reuben's a little kid. He's probably like 5 years old now, maybe 6. And brought them to his mother. He found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother. And Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, it is a small matter that thou hast taken my husband. Would thou also take my son's mandrakes? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, thou come in unto me, surely, for I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. You are a male prostitute now, and I have bought you with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. All right. Pimpin' ain't easy. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob a 5th son. And so now Leah has 5 sons, plus her maid has a son. And Leah said, God has given me my hair, because I have given my maiden to my husband. Because I have given my maiden to my husband, and she called his name Issachar. God has given me my hair because I have given. So in other words, she's having kids again. Okay? And then because I have given my maiden to my husband. So she thinks because God has given, because she's given her maiden, she's earned this kid, Issachar. Okay. Leah conceived again and bare Jacob a 6th son. And Leah said, God has endued me with a good dowry, and now will call my husband will dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. 6 sons plus her maid has one. Okay? And she calls his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. Okay, so Dinah is Leah's daughter. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. So, her maidservant has had 2 kids. Leah has had 7 kids, plus her maid has had 2 kids. So you've got 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? You have 10 kids. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God has taken away my reproach, and called his name Joseph, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. The Lord shall add to me another son. She's prophesying that she's going to have another kid after Joseph. The Lord shall add to me another. Now, that not has added, but shall add. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away, that I might go into my own place, to my own country. So he's got 11 kids. He's got 4 women. All of them have at least 1 kid with them. One has 1, one has 2, one has 7, and one has 1. Okay, so he has 12 kids now, but one's a woman. He doesn't have 12 sons yet. And he says, give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done unto thee. Okay, he doesn't have any stuff, really. He's just a servant, but he's got 12 kids. Okay? And he says, and Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thy eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. Okay, in other words, Everything you touch turns to gold. I want you to stay. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which I had before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord has blessed thee since my coming. And now when I shall provide for mine own house also, he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and shall keep thy flock. And I will pass through thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. He's like, I still like tricking people, and you like to be tricked, and you like tricking people, so we're going to do some tricks here. So shall my righteousness answer me in the time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep shall be counted stolen with me. This is kind of a thing. Jacob is a type of Satan here. Jesus is the unspotted lamb, okay? And if he is caught with him in Hades, he has no rights to him. He has no rights to the unspotted lamb in Hades, okay? So that's why Jesus takes the keys of death and Hades. And Laban says, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the goats that were speckled and spotted, and everyone that had some white in, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them in the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green and hazel and chestnut tree, and piled white streaks on them, and made the white appear which was on the rods. And he set the rods which he had piled before the flocks in the gutters when watering the troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to the drink. Now, Jacob's official testimony is that the angel of the Lord told him to do this. But it seems to be he's discovered some kind of aphrodisiac through these rods of green poplar, and he basically skins off parts of the rod, and it gives off some kind of aphrodisiac that makes these sheep want to breed. Okay? And so when the sheep come together, what he is doing is making sure that these sheep come breed with his sheep. And so he's taking Laban's flocks and getting them to breed with his sheep and producing more spotted, speckled sheep. Okay? He keeps giving Laban the non-spotted and speckled ones, but they're producing a lot more spotted and speckled ones. Okay? And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straked, speckled and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs and keep the faces of the flocks. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-stalked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flock towards the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. I don't know what this means. Whatever it is, it's what he did. Somebody else can sort that out if they're wiser than I am. I'd love to hear it. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. So whatever he's doing, he's manipulating the reproduction of these sheep, so that the ones that breed with his sheep are the stronger ones. Okay, and the man increased exceedingly and had much cattle and maidservants and menservants, camels and asses. Okay, so. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob had taken away all that was our father's, and all that was our father's he has gotten all this glory. In other words, he has grown. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as it was before. In other words, he's not looking at him kindly. It's like he is not happy with him anymore. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return into the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it was not towards me as before, but the God of my father has been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served thy father, and your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he thus said, The speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, The ringstock shall be my hire, then bear all the cattle ringstock. Now we just got done seeing that Jacob manipulated all this. And Moses knows this by the Lord. Okay? And thus God has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. Okay, so he's saying stuff that is not true. He knows he's manipulating the situation. Okay? So this is why I am not trusting what Jacob is saying here is necessarily the word of the Lord. Okay? He said, And it came to pass at that time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, behold, the lambs which leaped upon the cattle were ringstocked, speckled, and grizzled. And the angel of God spake to me in a dream, saying, Jacob, here am I. And he said, Lift up thine eyes, and see all the rams that leap upon the cattle are ringstocked, speckled, and grizzled, for I have seen all that Laban doeth to thee. Okay? He is telling his wives that God got him to do this. Maybe he did. Maybe God did. I don't know. But he's saying, he changed my wages, but he's clearly manipulating a system to breed the sheep in a certain way. And I am the God of Bethel. Let's see. For I have seen all that Laban has done unto me, and I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointed the pillar, and where thou vowed a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return to the land of my kindred. So just like Abraham went into Egypt and came out with plunder, just like Moses and the Israelites are going to leave Egypt with plunder, he is leading Laban with plunder. So Laban is kind of trying to enslave him like the Egyptians did. And he's going to plunder Laban, okay? But he's kind of dishonest. And Rachel and Leah answered and said, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he has sold us and has quite devoured also our money. In other words, he'd sold us for his labor and has basically squandered the benefits of Jacob's labor because they've just been living fat off of Jacob's labor, okay? He's doing all the work and they're living fat, him and his sons. For all the riches which God has taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God has said unto thee, do. Then Jacob rose up, and his son and his wife's camels. So I don't know if he's lying to his wives. I know God told him to leave, but all this stuff about how God is like, supposedly he's saying that God caused him to get all the flocks. And maybe God gave him the wisdom to do it. But it seems like he's being a deceiver still, okay? And he carries away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, and the cattle of his getting, and he had gotten in Padan-aram, and to go to Isaac and his father in the land of Canaan. So now he's got more flocks and herds, and he's about to go and inherit Isaac's flocks and herds. He's going to be super rich. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were his father's. She's stolen idols, okay? And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, in that he told him not that he had fled. So he left suddenly without telling him he was leaving. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face towards Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. And he took his brethren with him. So he's going towards Mount Gilead, and I believe this is like the Golan Heights. Remember, he's from Haran, which is in Turkey, down to the Golan Heights. So he's quite a ways away, but he's not quite in the promised land yet. And he took his brethren with him, and he pursued him 7 days journey. Remember, if this was a stiff hike, it would have taken him like 10 days to get there. Okay? But he's 7 days away. He's getting close to the promised land. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said unto him, Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob neither good or bad. In other words, God is putting the pause on Laban and saying, don't mess with him. And Laban overtook Jacob, and Jacob had pitched the tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done? Why hast thou stolen away unawares and carried my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and steal away from me, and didn't tell me, that I might not have sent thee away with mirth and with songs and with tabret with the heart? And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Thou hast not done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spoke to me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because of thou sore longest after my father's house, whence therefore hast thou stolen my goods? So notice he's referring to Jacob's wives that he earned, and his sheep that he earned as his goods. Okay? Laban had intended to never let Jacob go and basically make Jacob essentially a servant in his house. Okay? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, and I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. In other words, I don't trust you, dude. With whomever thou findest thy goods, let them not live before our brethren. Discern what is thine with me, and take it with me. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Okay? So he says this. He says, Well, now wouldest thou needs be gone, because thou longest after thy father's house, but yet why did you steal my gods? Why did you steal my idols? He doesn't know Rachel stole the idols. And he says, Before our brethren, discern what is thine with me, and take it, for Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Rachel is a thief. She steals her father's idols. Okay? She's an idolater and a thief. And Laban... She's perfect for Jacob. And Laban went to Jacob's tent, and Leah's tent, and two maidservants' tent, and found them not. And then he went out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. And Rachel had taken the image and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. In other words, the setup, the saddle of the camel, she put it in the saddle. And Laban searched the tents, but he found them not. And he said to her father, Let it not be displeased, my lord, that I cannot rise up before them, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but he found not the image. So it's unclean, woman's having her period, and she uses that as an excuse not to get up when the idols are under her butt, and she knows it. Okay? And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban, and Laban answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou so hotly pursued me? Whereas thou searched my stuff and hast found all thy household stuff, set it before thy brethren, and let them judge between my brethren and thy brethren. In other words, your sons and my brothers-in-law. Let them judge between us. This 20 years I have been with thee. Okay, so he's been with him now 20 years. He is at least 60 now. Okay? Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of their flock they have not eaten. Okay? And that which is torn of beast I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it, and my hand did this require, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day of the drought consumed me by the frost of the night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus I have been 20 years in thy house. I have served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle. So it's exactly 20 years. And you have changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father Abraham, the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely thou would have sent me away now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. So he knows that the Lord rebuked him. Okay? And Laban answered and said to Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, and unto their children which they have borne? Notice he is still acting like the stuff that he fair and square gave to Jacob is still his. Okay? So Laban's kind of a tool. And he is very clearly showing what his heart was. It's like, yeah, I'm going to give you that stuff as my servant, so it doesn't leave my household. And like, you're my servant, and I'm getting in his wife. No, this is your nephew. This is not your servant. He is trying to make a slave out of him. Okay? So therefore, come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. Jacob said to his brethren, Gather his stones. And they took the stones, made a heap, and they did eat there on the heap. And Laban called it Jegar-Shadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, "This heap is a witness between me and thee this day." Therefore was the name of it called Galeed. Okay, I wonder if that's where Gilead gets its name. Because Gilead's in that region. I'll bet it is. Heap of testimony. Cairn east of the Jordan. I'll bet that's where Gilead, Mount Gilead, and Galeed is probably where it gets its name. That'd be my guess. Remember, they're retroacting these names in a lot of cases. That's why he talks about Abraham going to Dan, okay? Somebody edited that after Moses died. Galeed, it's Gilead. This name is called Gilead. And I think there's a guy called Gilead, or maybe just someone who dwells in Gilead. And that's going to be in the book of Numbers, okay? And so he says, let's see. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between me and thee this day." Therefore it was called Galeed. And Mizpah, he said, "The Lord watch between me and thee, that when we are absent from one another, if thou afflict my daughters, if thou take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness between me and thee." So in other words, don't marry any other daughters. Treat my daughters good. Okay, I will. You didn't treat them so good, but I will. Laban said to Jacob, "Behold this heap, and behold this pillar which I have cast between thee." Okay? They're not going to keep going back to Laban for more daughters after this, because there's problems in this household, okay? They're going the pattern of the world. He's worshiping idols, and Jacob is going to move on. "And this heap be a witness and a pillar. I will not pass over this heap unto thee, and thou shalt not pass over this heap unto me for harm." For harm. Okay? Where is this? Gilead. It's the Golan Heights. Okay, what is he saying? He's saying, you will not pass over to me for harm, and I will not pass over to you. Okay? Where is he coming from? Turkey. Where is Israel? The Golan Heights. And he's saying, you won't pass over here to harm me, and I won't pass over here to harm you. Okay? There's a deal made between these two. And you could say that this is in Syria. He's counted as a Syrian. So there's kind of this permanent border between Syria and Israel, which is still there to this day. "And the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God their father judged betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mount, and called his brethren to eat the bread. And they did eat the bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and daughter, and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned to his place." Notice he's not Israel yet. He's still Jacob. He is still doing everything by his own flesh. God is talking to him. God is with him. But he is not relying on God for anything. He is not praying to God for anything. The only thing he's doing with God is making deals with him. If you do this for me, I'll do this for you. He's not trusting in his promises, nor is he asking him for his help. He's doing everything by his flesh. This is what we do. We try to work things by our flesh, and then when we're having a problem, then we ask God. Okay? That's what we tend to do. "Jacob went his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is God's host. And he called the name of that place Manahaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in his country, in the land of Seir, the country of Edom." Okay, now it's not called Edom yet, but it is called Seir. Seir is going to be where the Horites dwell. Esau is going to dwell among them. His eldest son is going to marry in with them. Now, I was mistaken. I thought Esau was married to a Hivite, and the Hivite was a Horite. Esau is married to two Hittites and an Ishmaelite. The Horites, it looks like his son marries into. So his son has a concubine. So his oldest son is hooked up with the Horites. And it seems like he's kind of just becoming like a strongman, like a warlord among them. Doesn't look like he's married in with the Horites. Okay? The Horites are a Hivite tribe. Seir is a Hivite tribe. Okay? Seir might have been killed. That might have been the forefather that when Nimrod or Amraphel goes and sacks all them. But Hori is the son of the grandson of Lotan, which is going to be Seir's eldest son. His sister's name is Timnah. We're going to get in this in Genesis 36. and she's going to hook up with Esau's oldest son, and that's where the Amalekites come from. So Jacob sent messengers to Esau's brother and Seir in the land of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, Thus shalt thou speak to my lord Esau, my servant Jacob, with us, and have journeyed with the land of Laban, and stayed there till now. I have oxen, asses, flocks, men servants, and women servants, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in your sight. So apparently he does have men servants and women servants on top. Okay? So apparently he has gained more because he's managing these big flocks, and he's gaining additional servants to help him with the work. So it's not just him. 20 years later, he's got a workforce. He's got a company, if you will. So he's got his sons. He's got his 11 sons plus his daughter. He's got a company of men servants and women servants. So probably some of these men servants that he has with him also have wives now. He's given them wives. And then he's got, obviously, his wife's 2 maid servants, okay? So he's got a little troop here, but it's probably 20 people, maybe a little more, okay? It's not a big troop. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet me 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So Esau's got a tribe of 400 men with them, okay? Esau has been, again, these guys are both around, they're 60 years old-ish. They're in their 60s. And Esau, remember, they're still living to be 140. So they'd be like in their prime. They'd be like a guy in his 30s to 40s today, okay? But he's got 400 men with him. What has happened in this time? In the 20 years that Jacob's been gone, remember, Esau is married into the Hittites. He's a man of the sword. He's becoming some kind of mercenary warlord. Whatever he's becoming a strong man among the people of Seir, okay, these Horite people. And it's looking like these Horites who are decimated under Amraphel are weak, and probably Esau is kind of hired to kind of be the muscle, almost like a military force for them against, the people they struggle with, okay? And he's got 400 men with him now. Probably some of the Horites. He's married into the Hittites, so probably some of them. He's married into the Ishmaelites, so probably some of them. So he's got kind of a squad there of roughnecks, okay? Remember, he's a tough guy, okay? So he's got his little Blackwater crew with him, 400 dudes. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people that was with him, his flocks and his herds, his camels, and his 2 bands. He said, If Esau come into one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, oh God, now I'm going to ask God for help. Last time I made a deal with him. Now I'm going to ask God for help. O God of my father Abraham, O God of my father Isaac, Yahweh, which said unto me, Return to thy country and thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all. Listen, he finally gets humble, okay? I can't go back to Laban. He's just does not like me. I'm pressed between a rock and the hard place, between Pharaoh and the Red Sea. I'm pressed here. I can't. He says, I am not worthy of the least of thy mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands. He's saying, I left my house as a homeless guy. I had a stick. And now I have become 2 bands. In other words, I've got 2 families here. 2 different women. I've got with her 3 kids, or 2, one with her, one with her handmaid. With her, I've got 7. I've got 2 families here, okay? Plus manservants and maidservants. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies that thou hast shown to my servant, and here I am. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come smite me and the mother with the children, me and all my family. And thou saidest, I will surely do thee good and make thy seed as sand of the sea, which shall not be a multitude. So he's praying to them and invoking God's promise. He's showing faith, and he's praying according to faith. And he lodged there that same night and took that which came to his hand for a present for Esau's brother. In other words, he's going to offer him a bunch of flocks and herds. Okay? 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams. That's a lot of herd. Okay? 30 milk camels. I don't know what a milk camel is like. I don't know if that's like... Yeah, so milk camels, they actually give milk, apparently. 30 milk camels. So we've got a cheese factory going here, a milk factory going here. 40 kine. I think kines are like a bulls, like a cow. A heifer. So 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, so those are donkeys, and 10 foals, those are female donkeys and young donkeys, okay? So that's like having 20 cars, 30 cars, okay? Because people ride these things. And bulls you can plow fields with. Obviously, cows you can make beef out of, obviously. Milk camels you can milk. That's a lot. And that he's about to give this just to Esau. So this is a good chunk of what he has, okay? But it's a lot. I mean, this is a thriving business of animals here, okay? And he delivered them into the hand of his servants. Every drove by themselves, and sent unto the servants, pass over before me, and put a space between drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, when Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asked thee, whose art thou, and whither thou goest thou? And whose are these before thee? Then shalt thou say, they be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau. Behold also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that follow the droves, saying, unto this manner shalt they speak to Esau, when he shall command them. So apparently these different kind of animals are kept apart, and he's sending them servants, with each one, saying this train of stuff is an offering. It's a peace offering, basically. He knows you're pissed at him from back in the day. He's giving you a massive peace offering. And so he commanded he the second and the third, and all that follow the droves, saying, on this manner shalt thou speak to Esau when you shall find him. And say ye moreover, behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us, for he said, I will appease him with a present that goes before me, and afterward he will see his face. Peradventure he will accept me. Okay? Jacob has humbled himself, and he is sending this massive present to Esau to say, I deserve your wrath for what I did, and I'm trying to make it right. Okay? So he went in the present before him, and himself lodged that night in the company, and he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and he passed over the ford of Jabbok, and he told them to send him over the brook, and send him over all he had, and Jacob was left alone, and there he wrestled with a man until the breaking of the day. Now remember, he starts out in the womb wrestling with Edom. Now he's wrestling with another man, okay, in his dream. And when he saw that he prevailed, it just says he was left alone. It doesn't say it's in a dream, actually. It says he saw when he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. So the man he's wrestling with touches the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. What happened? He dislocated his hip. Okay? Just by touching it. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. Somehow he knows he's wrestling with the Lord. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. Okay, hast thou powered really means you have contended with God and with men. So let's see. You have striven with God and with men. Okay, pretty much all of your fight is with God and with men. Okay, you have striven with God and with men. This is not a King James, only like corruption. This is like, hast thou power. The King James intentionally translated stuff in a way where the words can mean this or that, okay? like the Hebrew did and like some of the Greek did, okay? But it means something. And what it can mean, one of the legit ways this can mean is you can striven, okay? You have power. In other words, you have had contests of power and authority. With God and with men you have prevailed. How has he prevailed with God? The answer, he's prevailed with God because he has finally gotten to a place where he's trusting in God's promise and praying and asking God for his help instead of trying to con and manipulate and lie and stuff, okay? He has come to repentance, okay? God just favored him before he was born. No. God prophesied what was going to happen, okay? But what has happened was he finally repented, and now, remember, God has made promises to bless him because his father's blessed him, and he knows he's seeing the future. But now he's gotten to a place where he has finally repented of his ways, and he's asking God for help and trusting in God's promises. And so, he says, thy name shall no more be called supplanter, but Israel, for as a prince thou hast powered with God and man and prevailed. Okay? And Israel means he will rule as God. That's what Israel means. He will rule as God. Sarah means princess. So he says has power as a prince. Okay? So Sarah means prince or princess, okay? So he's saying you've been a prince with God and with men and prevailed, okay? You have ruled with God, with men and prevailed, okay? What is being hidden in here, with Israel is a God-man, okay? He's a prince of God and men. That's what Sarah, remember, Sarah means princess, or prince, masculine or feminine, and he has, for as a prince, you have power with God, with men, okay? Sarah, Elohim, Enosh, and prevailed, okay? As a prince, with God and with men, you've prevailed, okay? So he's telling him he's a prince of God, and he's a prince of men, okay? He's a foretype of Christ, who is both the Son of God, and so therefore he's a prince of the divine household, and he's the son of David, so therefore he's a prince of the human household, okay? And so he's the prince of princes, okay? But he's both. He's the merger of the two, and that's why his name is called Israel. And Israel is, when you see Israel in the prophets, it's sometimes going to be referencing Jacob, the person, the nation, the spiritual seed of Jacob, or Christ himself. Okay? You need to pay attention to those contexts as you're reading the prophets. And Jacob said to him, tell me, I pray unto thee. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. Now, notice he says, tell me thy name. The man he's wrestling with, remember, he's heard, I am, guys shown up and said, I am Yahweh, who's up on the top of the stairs, and he's far isolated from him. And he says, I am Yahovah, the God of Abraham and Isaac. Okay? Now he's wrestling with this guy who's right up close with him. He's wrestling with this guy. Like he's in the womb wrestling with Jacob, or with Esau, okay? Why? Because that guy is going to come in human flesh. Okay? That's why the connection's there. And he's saying, why do you ask after my name? This guy doesn't identify himself as Yahovah. He says, why do you ask after my name? What is he saying? He's saying you should know who my name. I did some kung fu on you and did whatever, the Vulcan pinch on your hip and it went out of joint. No, you know who I am. And he called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. He wrestled with God in pre-incarnate flesh. Okay, it's his glory, it's his godly body. Okay, the glory that he's going to have returned to him at the beginning, now merged with human flesh. And he passed over Penuel and the sun rose upon him, and he halted his neck on high. Therefore the children of Israel eat now not the sinew of which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shrank. So Jacob basically has, I don't know if you guys have, I've actually recently had one of these in my shoulder where it's like your tendon is tightened and it just hurts and it just restricts how far you can move with that tendon. And I've been doing hangs to try to fix it. I don't know how it got that way. Well, he's got something like that in his thigh for the rest of his life, and he's hobbled, and now he walks. What he does is it says his sinew shrank. He's got a tendon that is tight and needs to be pulled and needs to be stretched, but he can't quite do it, and so for the rest of his life he's hobbled. Okay, this is to humble him, to remember who's God in this equation. Okay, and because of that, the children of Israel don't eat that tendon, that part of the animals that they cut it off, do something with it, because in remembrance of Jacob. So Jacob lifted up his eyes, and behold, he beheld Esau came, and with him 400 men. He divided the children of Leah and Rachel into the two handmaids, and he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Jacob and Joseph the hindermost. So he's hoping they have a chance to escape, and in the rearmost, he's putting Rachel and Joseph, because he still loves Rachel the best, and Joseph is his favorite son. Okay. And he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times till he came to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Esau is over it. He's an emotional guy, but he's emotional in a good way and a bad way, okay? Esau is not so evil. He's carnal, but he is not so evil like he's bloodthirsty. He misses his brother. They had a fight over something Jacob did wrong, and Jacob did do wrong, but Esau forgives him. Okay, so don't think God hates Esau as a person. He forgave him. He refused to take his offering. He forgave him. Okay? And he lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children. Who are those with thee? And he said, the children which God has graciously given thy servant. Then the handmaidens came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also with their children came near, and they bowed themselves. And after came Joseph near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, what meanest thou by the drove that I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. Okay? And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep that thou unto myself. He's like, I'm doing fine. I got 400 dudes with me. I've got flocks and herds. I'm good. And Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, then receive thy present from my hand. For therefore I have seen thy face, as though I have seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. He's like, I really am trying to honor you. And he said, Take, I pray thee, my blessings I brought thee, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. So apparently Esau does take it. He does take the offering. Okay, he urged him. So whatever he gave Esau, he's got much more than that. So it's probably up to half of what he has. It's a lot. Okay? And he said, Let us take our journey, and I will go before thee. And he said to him, My Lord knoweth that the children are tender. So Esau's like, come stay with me in Seir. Or, come, let's go back to our father's house, wherever. And Jacob's like, nah. I gotta slow roll this. He goes, my children are tender, the flocks and herds are young, the young are with me. And if men should overdrive them in one day, the flock will die. Okay, so I gotta take my time with this flock. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly according to the cattle that goes before the children, that goes before me until I come to my Lord unto Seir. So the plan is we're going to go to Seir because Esau is kind of ruling in Seir. He's kind of like a warlord. He's safe there. We've got good stuff here. Okay, Isaac, their father, has still got his flocks and his herds and his stuff going on in Israel. Remember, this is now these guys are in their 60s. Isaac would be around 120 now, okay? So he's old, but he's still got his household and all his servants and stuff. But because he's got so much, now Esau's got his own stuff. He's in Seir. Isaac is in basically what would be like Judah now. This is the area around Beersheba and east of Gerar. And Jacob is like, you know what, I got a lot of stuff too, and I need space for my flocks and herds. So he says, I am going to stay here and slow roll, and I'll eventually get to you and Seir. And Esau probably is picking up the hint, like he's not coming. But okay, that's fine. We don't need to have trouble. And so Esau returned to that day to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house, and made booths for his cattle. And therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. So he actually settles down in this place called Succoth. And he comes to Shalem, the city of Shechem. So let's see where Succoth is. So this Gilead here, so Succoth is near the Jordan River, where this brook named Peniel kind of connects, and there's this place named Adam there apparently. But it looks like this is just north of the Dead Sea. Okay. Gilead, I think I said Gilead was the Golan Heights, and I made a mistake there. Gilead is going to be east of the Dead Sea. So Esau's down here in Gilead. Isaac and his crew is right here, and Jacob's going to be right here where these two brooks meet. That's a good place to be. And apparently there's the city of Shechem there. Okay? So let's see where Shechem is. So Shechem, oh no, there's Gilgal over here though. Oh, I'm Gilead and Gilgal. I get those two mixed up. I'm sorry. So again, he's now on the other side of the Dead Sea. There's where Shechem is. There's where Succoth is. Okay, and so he's making booths for his cattle, which sounds like he's making kind of like barns or pens or something they can be sheltered under from the heat or whatever in the evening. Heat in the day, cool the evening kind of thing, and they're near water, so he's got herds chilling here. Okay. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem. So Shechem is kind of a region. Shalem is going to be a city in that region. And he pitched his tent before the city. So just kind of like how Lot was hanging out outside of Sodom, and Isaac was hanging out outside of Gerar, and so was Abraham. He's hanging out outside of Shechem. Basically, you're going to do this as your herdsman because you're going to go into the city to trade to buy the stuff you need. Go back out to your camp, and your camp's just going to kind of run its herds in the outskirts, doing their dung thing, and trading with the city. And it's peaceful, okay? But this is going to be in what's now northern Israel, okay? So this is north of the Southlands. This is not quite Sea of Galilee, but it's in the space that would now be still kind of highlands, but you're getting upstairs of Ephraim and Samaria, okay? And he bought a parcel of field, so he actually owns some land now. He spread a tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money, and he erected there an altar, and he called it El Elohi Israel, which means the mighty God of Israel. The altar to the mighty God of Israel. Okay? And this is where he's going to be. Now, we're still in the life of Isaac, so I'm going to keep going with this. He says, now Dinah, the daughter of Leah. No, so remember, he's like 60. Dinah is going to be Leah's daughter, so let's say she's probably a teenager now. So now we're going to be probably near Jacob being probably in his, close to 70, let's say, years old. Probably even 75 to 80. And Dinah, his daughter, is now a young maid. She's probably a teenager. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, so she born to Jacob, she went out to see the daughters of the land. Can I go meet the daughters of Shechem and find some girlfriends to play with? Because I literally have 11 brothers, and this is a lot. And there's no ladies here. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite prince of the country, saw her and took her and lay with her, and he defiled her. Now, did he rape her? Or did he seduce her? Something happened. He defiled her. Okay? He did not marry her. He slept with her. And his soul clave to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel and spoke kindly to the damsel. It looks more like he seduced her than he raped her. That would be my guess. But he genuinely loved her. He wanted her for a wife, and he just did not do the right thing. Okay? So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this damsel to wife." And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, and now his sons were with the cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. Now, by this time, if she's a teenager, you have to guess he's got some sons that are adults. He probably has sons that are in their 20s now, okay? So they're not little kids anymore. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went into Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came to the field when they heard of it, and the men were grieved, and they were wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing had not ought to be done. Okay, this is not good. He knows it's not good. These people are Canaanites. They are probably sleep around, and this is normal for them. This is probably more like what it's like. It's probably not like he raped her. It's probably like we sleep around. They probably had some drinks, and that's what they do. And he slept with her. And now he's like, I want her to be my wife. And he's like, he wants her to be his wife. And he's like, I don't really give my daughters away to these foreign strangers. He already slept with her, though. Not happy. Jacob is not necessarily the toughest guy on the planet. Remember, he's a gentleman. And if this was Esau would have been in fisticuffs right then and there. But Jacob's like, that ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. He's really in love with her, dude. I pray you give him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what you shall say you shall give. Like, I'm willing to do what it takes. I know my son did, and it's an offense to you, but he really wants her for a wife. What will it take? Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give you according to what you say to me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully. So apparently the land of Shechem it's a person. And said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister, and he said to them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister one that is uncircumcised, for that is a reproach to us. But in this way we will consent you, if you will be as we, and every male of you be circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. How does that sound? If you guys get circumcised, we're all going to come together and be one people. And we'll all get along, we'll intermarry, and we'll just become one people. But if you'll not hearken to us to be circumcised, then we'll take our daughter and we'll go. Okay? And the words pleased Hamor, and Shechem Hamor's son, and the young men deferred not to do the thing, because he had delighted Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than the house of his father. Notice he said he was more honorable than all the house of his father. So this guy is actually a good guy. Their custom and their people, not so much. In terms of controlling his lust, not so much. But in terms of just like integrity, he has integrity. And he goes and circumcises himself lickety-split because he really loves her and wants to be his wife. Okay? And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of the city and communed with their men in the city, saying, these men are peaceable with us. Let them dwell with us in their land and trade therein, for the land, behold, is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for our wives, and let us give them our daughters. See, we're going to get along with these people. Only herein will the men consent for us to dwell with us to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. He talks all the men in his city into being circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? In other words, this guy's got all these flocks and herds, and we'll have access to this, okay? We've got good stuff going on here. Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and Shechem and his sons hearkened all that went out of the gate of the city, and every male was circumcised, and all that went out of the gate of the city. Everybody in Shechem was circumcised. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, okay? If you circumcise on the 8th day, it's going to heal up pretty quick. If you circumcise as an adult, you're going to be in pain for quite some time. It's a very sensitive part of your body. It is healing. You need to sit and not move much because this is really not feeling good, okay? And you're trying to avoid infection. And it's just like, it's ouch, okay? This is not, you are not feeling good, okay? And they know this. Jacob, his sons, they know this, okay? So, Simeon and Levi, these two, not Reuben, Simeon and Levi, okay, the second and third born of his, okay? They go take a sword and they run up in the city and kill every single man. They know these men are, they're not in the shape to fight, okay? And they go and kill all of them, okay? I don't know how many there is. Could be dozens, could be hundreds. It's a city, okay? So they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and they took out Dana the son of Shechem's house and went out. And the sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and they spoiled their city because they had defiled their sister. When they took their sheep and their oxen and their asses, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you had troubled me to make me stink among the inhabitants of this land, among the Canaanites and among the Perizzites. So the Shechemites are apparently among the Perizzites. Okay, these are the northern tribes of Canaan. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed all in my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as a harlot? They basically disrespected their father and said, you're a punk. We took matters in our own hands because you were too lenient with them. You were too gracious with them, okay? This is important. These two tribes, Simeon and Levi, get absorbed into Judah. Simeon is entirely surrounded by Judah. It's a landlocked little land that they get. And Levi becomes the priesthood. And not the good priesthood. This is the priesthood who is eventually going to lead people to worship the image of the beast, okay? But they get absorbed, so they don't become a powerful people because they have no grace. They're all about vengeance, okay? They got to go. So, what you end up having, says Jacob says, arise up and go to Bethel and dwell there. Remember, he was in Shechem. Now he's going into Bethel, which is in Ephraim, up into the highlands, okay? Getting away from this, okay? So let's look at our little map here. He's up here, Shechem. Remember, his herds are down in Succoth. He's got servants probably staying with them. This is where they're watering and chilling. He's telling them, get out of here and go up to Bethel. Why? Because the tribes that are down here, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, are going to kill you. You just took out one of their cities, okay? And they're going to go up here into Gilgal. Now, if you read the book of Joshua, you're going to have all these crazy stuff about battles that they had and supernatural stuff Jacob's sons are doing. That's all bull crap, okay? It did not happen, okay? His older son, remember, Joseph after this is going to have a story where Joseph's pretty much a young lad. He's a teenager, which means his older sons are only in their early 20s. He's got 11 guys. He's probably got, maybe a few dozen servants. He is not a big troop, okay? His father has a big troop, but he's way up here, and his father's way down here, okay? His father's still got a big household of men servants and maid servants, and he's going to inherit that. Edom's over here, okay? So his father's over here, Edom's over here, on both sides of the Dead Sea, and then he's up in here. And so he needs to skedaddle, okay? So he's going to skedaddle, and he gets to Bethel. In Bethel, like I said, that's going to be the southernmost part of northern Israel. So notice most where all this stuff is happening, and his stuff with Laban is kind of in the northern tip of Israel. He's going to end up in the southern tip of the northern kingdom of Israel. His father's house is all in Judah. Okay, so you have Israel and Judah, kind of a separation almost. So he says, I'm going to rise to Bethel, go there, make an altar to God, who answered me in the time of my distress, was with me, and they gave to Jacob all the strange gods that were in their hand, and all their earrings. So these are the women and children of Shechem. He's going to take them all. Remember, he just killed a bunch of men. Now they're taking all their women and servants, basically into their household as like servants, okay? And he said, which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. Why? So they couldn't identify themselves as people of Shechem. Okay? So people couldn't show up and be like, oh, they're wearing the stuff that Shechemites wear. Because people's clothes and their jewelry and stuff like that identifies their tribal affiliation. So they don't want other people to show them up and be like, there's the people of Shechem. Remember, this city disappeared. And people are going to be like, what happened to the people of Shechem? The idea is it's a mystery. I don't know. They're gone. They're just gone. What happened to them? I don't know. They killed all the men. They took the women and children. Okay? Now Jacob's got a bit of a squad here. So remember, they took all the women and children. I would guess some of his sons married some of these women and children. Okay? That's probably where a lot of the first wives came from. Okay? Probably not necessarily the married women, but probably the young virgins. They probably just took them. And that's who they married. Okay? Doesn't say. It talks about Judah. We're going to get into Joseph's story later, but it talks about Judah getting a wife from Canaan. But a lot of them probably got wives from these people they took. And so he says, he journeyed there, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, and the people that were with him. So this is where he has his initial dream with a stairway to heaven. And he built an altar, and called the place El Bethel, the God of Bethel, because God appeared to them. So this is God of the house of God. God of the house of God. Bethel means house of God. Okay? The house of God is the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Okay? The God of the house of God. Because there God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died. So Rebekah apparently has a nurse named Deborah. Okay? She's apparently like a maid taking care of her kids. So she's got maidservants and menservants, right? And she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak, and the name of the place is called Alan Bakuth. Okay? I don't know why this is important. Curious. I wonder if there's any relation between that and the later Rebekah. And God appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Paddan Haran and blessed him. And God said unto him, thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. So he called him Israel already when he wrestled with the man. Now he's telling him, you're no longer to go by Jacob. This is probably in part because he just slew a city full of people. So he's just like, you go by Israel now. Israel is your name. Jacob is no more. So he gives him the name Israel. You shall be called Israel. But now he's saying you shall not be called anymore Jacob. In other words, your kids don't call you Jacob. Nobody calls you Jacob. We don't want anyone to go, yeah, Jacob's suddenly gone, and so's the city of Shechem. Who is this guy over here? Oh, this is Israel. Well, who is Israel? He's the son of this guy in the south. The idea is he's disguising himself as he's a different person, okay? And he calls his name Israel. And he says, God says unto him, I am God Almighty. So let's see what God Almighty is. I am El Shaddai, the God Most High, the Almighty, God Almighty, El Shaddai. I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. Okay? So a nation is obviously going to be Israel. A company of nations is going to be the church. Okay? This is how this works. You don't have Israel becoming a company of nations at any point in time in the flesh. Okay? And the Jews should know this. Remember, the promise is to bless all nations through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? A nation and a company of nations shall be out of thee, and kings shall come out of thy loins. Okay? So you're going to have, there's the Jews, there's the nation of Israel, and this is the company of nations is going to be the church. It's the company of nations, okay? And kings shall come out of his loins. Okay, so obviously kings, the kings of Israel and Judah are all going to come out of his loins. And the land which Abraham gave to Isaac, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed after thee I will give the land. And God went up from him to a place where he talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, even a pillar of stone, and he poured out a drink offering on them, and he poured oil thereon. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke to him Bethel. So he calls it Bethel twice, but it's called Luz. So maybe he's saying this is when it's finally called Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath, And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass that she was in hard labor, that her midwife said, Fear not, thou shalt have this son also. Remember, she prophesies with Joseph, he will have another son. But then Jacob curses whoever takes whoever stole their father's gods. He said, whoever stole your gods shall die. Remember? But Rachel stole him, and she hasn't told Jacob she's done it. Nobody knows she's done it. Okay? And Jacob had cursed her and said, whoever stole your idols to Laban will die. And that's why she's dying. Okay? So this is, probably going to be a handful of years after that. Jacob is in his 60s. His wives are probably in their 30s now. Okay? And they've got a bunch of kids. No, I'm sorry, they got fully grown kids. So his wives are probably close to in their 40s now. He's in his 70s now. Okay? Maybe 70s to 80s. Okay? And it shall come to pass, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So she calls him Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrow, because she's dying. But his father called her Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. So apparently he saw Rachel as his right hand, and that's the son of his right hand. And Jacob set up a pillar on her grave, and that pillar is Rachel's grave to this day. Okay, so she doesn't get buried in Machpelah. She gets buried right there in Bethel. And this is going to be important because the place where she is buried is Ephrathah, which is now Bethlehem. Okay, Bethlehem. Okay, so it's near Bethel, but it's Bethlehem. Okay, it's not right in Bethel, but it's in that area, and so there's actually going to be this guy named Ephrathah, and they're going by modern city names. These city names are going to be in the days of Judah, and you're going to find them in Numbers, and you're going to find them in Chronicles, and it's going to tell you the ancestry of the guys who become Ephrathah and starts the city of Bethlehem. Okay, this has been edited. I don't care what anyone tells you. These names did not exist in that time. It has been edited after the fact. So your modern scholars, the reason they're going to get into this critical stuff to say that Genesis is a compilation and it's not divinely inspired, it has been edited. Because it's not called Bethlehem now, nor is Ephrathah there, because you're going to find the whole story of Ephrathah and how Ephrathah is the descendant of so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so of the line of Judah, which Judah's just a kid now, or maybe he's a young adult now, but that doesn't exist. Okay, they're editing the names of the cities later on, or maybe this, which is Bethlehem or Ephrathah. They're telling him, they're either changing the names of the cities or they're editing them later on. Okay, but this is not Moses' original writing. And Jacob set up a pillar on her grave, and that is the pillar of Rachel's grave until this day. And Israel journeyed and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar. And it came to pass when Israel dwelt in the land, so this is during this period, and Reuben is probably, in his 20s to 30s, probably still single, probably all still single, because Jacob didn't get married till he was 40. Reuben went in and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12, okay? So shortly after the birth of Benjamin and the death of death of Rachel, Reuben, Leah's firstborn, who is now an adult, goes and sleeps with his concubine. Probably he's in his 20s and she's probably in her 30s. So she's probably still pretty young and good looking. And she has pretty much born 2 children to his father. She's not a wife, so he's not sleeping with her on the regular. She's lonely. He's young. And he sleeps with her. But she's his father's property. She's his wife. She's his, okay? And so the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. These are all the sons of Leah. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Gad and Asher. Okay, so I'm sorry, Zilpah does have 2 sons. And these are the sons of Jacob, which were born in Paddan Aram. And Jacob came to Isaac his father unto Mamre in the city of Arba, which is in Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac sojourned. So eventually now he's going to come back to Isaac. Now remember, he's like 120 when he leaves, Isaac's like 120 when he leaves Laban, okay? Now we've had some years gone by. He's, again, going to be somewhere around 100, 130-ish, okay? It's 120 to 130. And he says the days of Isaac were 180 years. Isaac lives to be 180 years old still, okay? Abraham lives to be 185. Isaac lives to be 180 years, 180, okay? So he lives to a ripe old age. So Jacob is going to end up migrating back down to Isaac and spending another 50 years with Isaac, okay? So he's not a young whippersnapper, okay? By the time Isaac dies, he's 180 and Jacob's 120, okay? So you want to understand, like, the time scale in this, because we're going to go into Egypt and Joseph and all that not long after this, okay? Isaac gave up the ghost and died and was gathered at his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob bury him. So what happens? Esau ends up inheriting this massive squad of people in Seir, and he's, by this time, remember, he's going to be 120. So Isaac and Jacob are 120. His son, his eldest son, Eliphaz the Temanite, already has kids with a concubine. The Amalekites are starting to grow, and Eliphaz the Temanite is going to be Job's friend. Okay? That's why I'm going to put the story of Job right after the book of Genesis. I'm going to basically say it happened right around the time Joseph goes into Egypt. Okay? So Jacob and Esau are peaceable. They are now dwelling on both sides of the south of the Dead Sea, basically. You don't really have a Jordan River. You have a Dead Sea there. You have two sides of it, Seir and Judah, which is really what it is, what becomes Judah. But this is Hebron, the area of Hebron. And it's what's now the heartland of Judah, okay? And he's going to inherit Isaac's stuff. So he's already got all these people from Shechem. He's got wives for his sons when they get older. He's got men servants and maid servants. Now he inherits his father's house. So I want you to understand, when they go into Egypt, people are like, how could they come out and, 2 million people in Egypt 70 years later? They don't go in there just 70 persons. They go in there with 70 descendants of Israel, who are the aristocracy of a people who are in the thousands. Okay, there's thousands of them. These people have been growing since the days of Abraham. And in Abraham's day, they were a mighty prince. Remember, Abraham's 100 by the time he has Isaac, and he has over 300 soldiers when he's 85. Okay, so Abraham's people is already going to be at least in the low thousands. Now that by the time you get to Isaac, that's 180 years later. This people has been growing for 200 years now. Okay? And I'm sure some of them have married off, and I'm sure some of them have gotten their freedom. But by the time you get to Abraham and Isaac's household being inherited by Jacob, plus the people of Shechem he's taken, he has thousands of people. Thousands, okay? They're all servants of his. They're a massive band of roving Bedouin. And the aristocracy among them is going to be 70 males by the time they get to Egypt, which is going to be like another 20-ish years after Isaac dies, okay? But I want you guys to get your picture straight when you listen to these secularists who say, oh, there's no way 70 people could turn into 2 million by this time. They could if there were 70 people plus thousands of people that they married in with and that served them. Okay, so it's you have to understand, when they're counting the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're counting the aristocracy, but it's a bigger people beyond them. Okay, so these Israelites, when they come in to Canaan as this massive squad with their armies of millions, it's because it's not just them; it's their servants too. Okay, so that ends the story of Isaac. Okay, now I'm just going to get you guys really quick through the genealogy of Esau here, and then we're going to cut that off, and then we'll go into the story of the generations of Jacob after that, okay? So these are the generations of Esau, which is Edom. So remember, Abraham ends with him and Ishmael and that line, how it carries off. And Isaac's is going to end with him and Esau and how his line carries off. Because now the story is about Jacob leading up into Egypt, okay? So he says, Esau took wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of... So it does say Hivite, see? Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, a Hivite, okay? Now, for those of you who think the Bible is flawless and there's no mistakes, I just showed you where it said he was his son of his daughter was a Hivite, and now it says it was a Hittite, okay? They're two different tribes of Canaan. So there's a mistake somewhere. One of these two things is wrong. Am I saying Moses made a mistake? I don't know if Moses made a mistake. I know there's editing that has happened after the fact. I know there's been translations and scribes who have copied this stuff down, okay? We know that there's two tribes. See, here it says the daughter of Elon, a Hittite. And it says Judith, so wait, he's got another daughter. He's got another wife, I'm sorry. So Esau apparently has 4 wives. So let me look at this. You have Esau, he has the daughter of Judith, the son of Beri, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, a Hittite. And here he's saying this is Aholibamah and Anah, and Basemath is Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nehiboth, okay? So the point is, in Genesis 26 and in Genesis 36, you have 2 different records of who his wives are, okay? That's called a mistake in the Bible, okay? They can't both be true. I don't need to bend my brain and come up with some speculative theory about why they're true. It's a mistake in one book, in the book of Genesis. Now, there is very clear evidence that the book of Genesis has editing. It has the adding of city names before they existed, because these cities weren't named this until after Moses is dead. So Moses did not write this exclusively, okay? Just like Moses didn't write, and God buried him here in Deuteronomy, okay? Moses wrote the core of it, but other people edited it, and some of them made at least this mistake, okay? Now, I don't know if they added maybe this whole record of Esau here, and the Edomites' records did not comport with Jacob's records. But the point is don't think God is just beaming this into Moses' head or telling him verbatim what to say. Moses is compiling this from existing records, and God is giving him divine commentary on it, like he gives the apostles divine commentary in the Old Testament, okay? So you have a distinction here. He is married to a Hittite, a Hivite, and an Ishmaelite. That's what I see, okay? They're both sons of Canaan. The Hittites and the Hivites are 2 different tribes of the sons of Canaan. I say the Hivites are going to be, they have to be one of them, because the Hittites are more in the north. And remember, Esau gets around because he's a hunter. But the Hittites are more in the north and the Hivites are more in the south. So I'm going to guess that the mistake is right here where he calls Judith. See, it's even a different name. Maybe he's got another wife. But it says Esau was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Okay? Now this is saying Basemath is Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth, which he got later. Okay? So there's just a mistake here, because one of these, this is Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth, is Basemath, and this is saying Basemath is the daughter of Elon the Hittite. This is saying Adah is the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and this is saying Judith is the daughter. I don't know if Judith is another name for Aholibamah, but again, you have a conflict here. This is just one book of the Bible, and it's just a couple of chapters removed, and you have a conflict in who Esau's wives are and who they came from, okay? So I'm going to assume this record is legit. Maybe Judith is another name for Aholibamah, and maybe she's a Hivite, but this Zibeon the Hivite, it's going to tell you about these people and how he's interspersed with the people of Seir, okay? And Basemath is Ishmael's daughter, the daughter of Jebaoth. And Ada bare Esau Eliphaz, and Basemath Ruel, okay? Eliphaz is Eliphaz the Temanite. Here's how he becomes the Temanite. Holibama bare Jeush, Shalom, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born to him in the land of Canaan. So again, this is going to be the Hivite, the daughter of Zibeon. This is important. And it says, let's see. And Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and all his beasts and all his substance which they had got in the land of Canaan, and went to the country from the face of his brother Jacob. For the riches were more than they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus Esau dwelt in Mount Seir, and Esau is Edom. Okay, that's why Mount Seir is now called the land of Edom now. Okay. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. These are the name of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Ada, the wife of Esau; Ruel, the son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. So that's the Ishmaelite. This is going to be the Hivite. The sons of Eliphaz were Teman. Remember, he's called Eliphaz the Temanite. Okay, you have to get to 3 generations before your people are big enough to become a clan. Okay. And then it's going to be the firstborns, just like it's Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and then the nation becomes called Israel. It's Esau, Eliphaz, and Teman, and that first tribe of the Edomites is going to be called the Temanites. And so Eliphaz's father is going to be an older man, and the son's going to be Teman is going to run the tribe, and so that's why it's going to be called the Temanite tribe. Okay. You're going to have the same thing in the table of nations. Okay, you're going to find that Noah and his sons and their grandchildren do not become the original. Well, I'm sorry, some of the Noah and his sons do not become the original nations. It's the 3rd generation that becomes the nations because they're just a family. They're just one small group of people. But by the time you get to these separate clans, now they're big enough to have separate tribes. Okay, so he's called Eliphaz the Temanite. Omar, Zephar, Getam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was the concubine of Eliphaz's son. We'll get into her in just a minute. And she bare Eliphaz Amalek, and these were Adaz, Esau's wives. So that's where the Amaleks come from. They're actually called in Numbers or Exodus, one of these two, they're called the eldest of the nations. I don't know why they're called that. But maybe they're talking about the eldest of the nations to have come from like the loins of Israel. I don't know why, because he is... remember, Abraham is called the father of many nations, and they might be the first one to become a separate nation. I don't know why it calls them that. Anyways, it says these are the sons of Ruel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. So those are the ones that are Ishmaelite. And these are the sons of Aholibama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bare Esau, Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These were the dukes of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, Duke Teman, Duke Omar. See, these dukes are like princes, okay? So a duke would be like, you have people in modern medieval times called dukes and archdukes, okay? And that's why the English is taking these names duke, but it really means they're princes, okay? Like Ishmael has sons who are 12 princes. Okay, they're not kings. A king is over a nation, and a prince is over a tribe. That's the way I see it, okay? Duke Teman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, their nation is Edom, okay? Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, Duke Amalek, okay? So these are the princes of the Edomite tribes by the time they get to, or by the time they become kind of a nation, okay? These are the dukes that came from Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Edom. These are the sons of Ruel, Esau's sons. Duke Nahath, Duke Zerah, Duke Shema, Duke Mizah. These are the dukes that came from Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholibama, Esau's wife. Duke Jeush, Duke Jalam, Duke Korah. These are the dukes that came from Aholibama, the son of Esau's wife. So what he's doing is giving you the princes of the tribes of Esau by the time it becomes a nation, okay? These are the sons of Esau of Edom, and these are their dukes, okay? Now this is back in the day when it becomes a nation, okay? This down here is going to be by the time they come out of These are the dukes by the time Israel comes out of the promised land. Okay? Remember, this is Moses compiling this. So now we're going to talk about, remember, they're mixed in, just like the Judahites are now mixed in with the Shechemites and the servants that they got from the other people, where the Edomites are going to be mixed in with the Hivites. Okay? So it says these are the sons of Seir the Horite. Okay, now remember, it's the same thing. You're going to get 3 generations down before they get the name of the tribe. Okay, so Seir has a son named Lotan. Lotan has a son named Hori. That's why you get the tribal name of Horites. Okay, these are Hivites. Remember, he says he's married in with the Hivites, but their tribe is called the Horites. So the Hivite would be the Canaanite nation that they come from. Remember, 9 nations come from Canaan. And the Hivites, or the Horites, is going to be the tribe that they're from. And Seir is the father of the tribe. That's where Mount Seir gets his name. It doesn't say what happens to him. Either he dies of old age or he's killed. But his eldest son is going to be Lotan, and his sister is going to be where the Amalekites come from. So it says Seir the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, and Anna. Okay? So remember, he marries the daughter of Anna of Zibeon. Okay, so that's gonna be who Esau marries into. Okay, Lotan then would have been like his uncle-in-law or something like that, but he's married to a daughter of Anna. Okay, so Anna is actually Zibeon's son, but these are basically going to be the heads of the tribe. And so it says in Dishan and Ezer and Dishan. Okay, these are the dukes or the princes of the Horites. So in other words, these are the tribes or the clans of the princes of the Horites, the Hivite tribe. Okay, and it says now the children of Lotan were Hori and Heman, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. Timnah was who what's his name, Eliphaz impregnated to come up with the Amalekites. And the children of Sobal were these: Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. That's Shobal right here. And the children of Zibeon, both Aja and Anna. So maybe there's 2 Annas, but it looks like Anna right here is he gets elevated somehow. And it says that this is the Anna that found the mules in the wilderness as he fed the asses of Zibeon his father. So apparently this is significant. I don't know why. But the children of Anna were these: Dishan and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna. This is who Esau marries. Okay. And these are the children of Dishan: Hemdan, Ashban, Ithran, and Shiran. These are the children of Ezer: Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. These are the children of Dishan, Uz, and Haran. So probably the reason why Anna is separated out is because these 3 become probably, men of significance within the Edomite lines, within the Edomite kingdom, because they're the sons of Seir the Horite, the original. And then Anna gets elevated because Esau marries his daughter. Okay, so they become the head ones. And then the Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan, these are the dukes. Okay, so Dishan is also he's the son of Anna, but remember, this is going to be Esau's brother-in-law, so he gets elevated. And let's see, so we've got the children of Dishan: Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, Shiran. The children of Ezer: Bil, Zavan, and Akan. The children of Dishan are Uz and Haran. Okay, and I believe this Uz is where this area where this Uz is, I believe, is where the story of Job takes place. Now there is another Uz, which would be up near Damascus, and there's the children of the Arameans. There's 2 named Uz and Buz, and one of the guys, what is his name? I can't remember his name, but the guy who speaks up at the end of Job, not his 3 friends, but the last guy, the young guy, he's a Buzite. So it could take place up near Damascus. Okay, but Eliphaz the Temanite is one of his friends, so it could take place there. It looks like the story of Job could take place in either place, but Job is going to eventually settle in with the Edomites. So it says, these are the dukes that came from the Horites: Duke Lotan, Duke Shobal, Duke Zibeon, Duke Anna, Duke Dishan, Duke Ezer, Duke Dishan. So it kind of gives you where these guys come from and all their ancestry. But these 7 become their princes. Okay? So by the time you get to the Edomite lines, and all these guys are over 100, let's say, and they've got descendants and stuff like that, the aristocracy of what becomes the Edomite kingdom is these main families of the Horites plus the main families of the sons of Esau. But obviously Esau is going to be more dominant because he came in, he marries in with them, and he becomes kind of like the head of their military, if you will. Okay? So these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before they reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela the son of Beor reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. Now, this is my theory, but I think it's pretty sound. Bela, I think, is the same Bela who is the son of Zoar, or of the city of Zoar, that gets spared in the days of Lot. But by the time you get to Esau's day, the whole valley of what used to be Sodom and Gomorrah and all those cities has become the Dead Sea. Somehow it's gotten blocked up and just filled up to become the Dead Sea. And so he had to migrate out of there. So he leaves Zoar, and he comes to into the land of Edom, and he comes to Dinhabah. Okay? And he becomes, I believe he's related to them. He's probably a Hivite. And the Horites are descended from the Hivites, and probably he's a relative of Seir. And he comes there and rules over that land. Okay? And he's basically the first king. The Edomites aren't ruling yet. Then Bela dies, and Jobab, the son of Zerah, the son of Basra, reigned in his stead. Now this is important. Jobab. I theorized this in one of the earlier editions of my Revelation book, and then after this, I found an old, I forget if it was like the Syrian Peshitta or something like that. One of them is going to have a record in the end of the book of Job, and it's going to say how Job was originally married to, I think it was an Ishmaelite. And the wife that he bears his children with that all die, who tells him to curse God, I think she's an Ishmaelite, but she might be a joke tonight, okay? After she dies, the second wife that bears him the 10 more children that he has and the 3 beautiful daughters that he has is going to be the daughter of Zerah, which is going to be from the line of Esau, okay? So you have Eliphaz, Ruel, and let's see. And this Ruel is going to have Zerah as a son. So this would be Esau's grandson. Remember, but he's going to have 10 kids with this woman, so she's got to be young, okay? So he is going to, in his old age, he's over 100. He's like 110, but remember, he's from the generation. He is the absolute youngest person on the table of nations. You'll find a Jobab there too, okay? He's going to live to be like 250 years old, okay? So he is from the generation that is upstairs of Abraham's generation by like 4 generations. He's right at that generation that goes from being 400 to being around 250 when they die, okay? And then it's going to trickle down to Abraham's father at 205, Abraham by 180, Isaac 180, and then keep trickling down from there, okay? So he is going to, in the year 100, marry a daughter of Zerah, and that's how he becomes labeled as the son of Zerah, okay? So he is Jobab, or Job, is married into the Edomite line. And this is very important later on when you get to eschatology. Where he rules from is Basra, and that's where the Jews are going to be gathered when they flee Jerusalem in the last days. You're going to find this in Micah, okay? It's going to be mentioned like in several prophecies. This place is Basra, and the reason why it's important is because that's where Job ruled as king, and Basra means sheepfold, and Job had massive herds and flocks and stuff. He was blessed like Abraham was blessed, okay? And Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Timani, remember the Temanites, this is Eliphaz, reigns in his stead. So now a descendant of Eliphaz, his friend, is going to be the next king. And then Husham dies, and Hadad the son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead, and the name of his city was Avith. Okay, so this is apparently Edomite who's like one of the judges of Israel who saves them from Midian. Okay, he smote them. And then Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigns in his stead. And Samlah dies, and Saul the son of Rehoboth by the river reigns in his stead. So this is important, okay? Around this time, Jobab the son of Basra is around the time Joseph goes into Egypt, okay? So count how many kings you have since then, okay? Because now we're getting past Beor and Jobab, who lived to be really old, and we're getting into, now we have Husham, now we have Hadad, 2, And now we have Samlah, 3, and Saul, 4 kings, and then Belhanan, 5 kings, and then Hadar, 6 kings, and that seems to be how many kings reigned in Edom by the time the Jews come out of Egypt, okay? So what you're going to have here is, remember, they go into Egypt for 4 generations. And in those 4 generations, 6 different Edomite kings have reigned, okay? They're not in there for 400 years. They're in there for about 210 years, okay? And in that time, you've had 6 different Edomite kings, so that gives you an average of somewhere around 35, 40 years for a king to reign. That works for their lifespans. And obviously, you see, a strong man rise up, and we don't know what their system is for how they get their next king. Is it a vote? Is it whoever conquers? Or is it like the judges, kind of where you just have a strong man rise up and protect them, and that's who it is? However it is, you have these kings, and it's not very clear. There's not like a clear line of ancestry like you have with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? And so by the time you get to them coming out of Egypt, here's the dukes that came of Esau according to their families, according to their places: Duke Timnah, Duke Avlah, Duke Jeheth, Duke Aholibama, Duke Elah, Duke Pinan, Duke Kenas, Duke Teman, Duke Mizmar, Duke Magdiel, Duke Aram. These are the dukes of Elam according to their habitations by the land of their possessions. He is Esau, the father of their Edomites, okay? So they're descended from these original dukes, but these are the dukes who are now reigning by the time they get out of Egypt, okay? So they've got the kings by the time they get out of Egypt and the dukes by the time they get out of Egypt. They are now a nation with a bunch of tribes like Israel, and princes over those tribes, and a king. Okay. Again, this is written in the days of Moses, so they're they're closing all the gaps about the Edomites, who are going to be the people that they come into contact with. And so you've got the Amorites, you've got the Edomites names, you've got the tribes of Canaan all kind of sorted out. You've got the Moab and the Ammonites. Basically, everybody the Jews are going to come into contact with after Moses, where they came from, is all documented, okay? So it's not just Egypt, it's not just the Table of Nations, but it's the immediate surrounding relations that they're going to have to deal with, okay? It's like almost like everything that you're going to get from the Bible in terms of the prophets and stuff afterwards is documented out so you can know where these people come from. And then all this is going to be repeated again in the Book of Chronicles, because after the Book of Chronicles, they've all been sacked and moved around by Babylon and Assyria, and they're coming back now, and they're kind of establishing the roots of and the pedigree of the Jewish kingdom at that point, okay? So they're establishing what was all around them and where they came from to establish their own pedigree, okay? So this is going to be, and Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was a stranger in the land of Canaan, so he's probably going to be in Hebron. And these are the generations of Jacob. I'm going to do that part next, because the generations of Jacob is really going to take you down into Egypt with Joseph, okay? You don't have a thing about the generations of Joseph. That's actually going to finish off the book of Genesis. It's about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but obviously Isaac's story, Jacob and Esau's squabble, is a big part of that. Jacob's story, the squabble between Joseph and his brothers, is a part of that, and then Jacob's going to die, and that's going to close off his story. So this is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's story. It obviously goes through the pre-flood era to get you there, and then I'm going to finish off Genesis in the next section, and I'll try to do that within a week or so. So hope you guys are blessed by this teaching. I hope you learned some stuff. Again, just take this stuff in there. If you can't get the Power Bible, again, it's $7 online, but get something similar where you can flip through these verses, and when you hear these names, go to the prophecies where they're mentioned, so you're like, oh, that's those guys. And just get your mental map down. Like, your Bible should have a Table of Nations map in it. It doesn't, because scholarship sucks. But you make your own little, Bible Table of Nations map. Make your own little Israel map, and just kind of just start boom, 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 dotting these places, and kind of have your own little pad of stuff that you're like, okay, now I know where I'm talking about, if you don't have a good resource like that in your Bible. Otherwise, get familiar with this I think that was Bible Hub where I'm getting those maps from. That stuff's pretty well documented. They've had a lot of archaeology and dug up a lot of these sites, and they've identified a lot of these places in modern time. Some of them are still sketched. They don't know where they are necessarily. They know the region, but a lot of them they've specifically documented by now, and they keep updating this stuff. So hope you guys are blessed by this. Have a great rest of your week. Batman out. Peace.
Peace, I'm out. I'm Batman.